Ho, 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 cheeky monkeys.
Toppy.
It's Bergkamp. That's magnificent.
Well done. Bye-bye.
Be like the Arsenal. Be ambitious. Come on.
Hello and welcome to a Bergkamp Wonderland podcast. The one podcast out there that doesn't have a bad injury record this season. I'm your host, Kris. So I say host. We don't really have hosts anymore. It's so 2006, isn't it? We just sit around a little metaphorical table and talk about Arsenal. So that's what we're going to do tonight. But I am here to introduce the people that are on this illustrious panel. First up, he's been caught spying in bushes at London Colney this week. Rumour has it. But he's still a gent. We know him as Goonaholic. Evening, Dave.
Hello, Kris. Thank you very much for inviting me again, everybody.
Always
quite
pleasure.
Looking forward to this.
Good. And I shall be expecting plenty of intel. I want to know what Unai Emery has on his Weetabix, and I want to know what Caicedo says when he steps on Lego. That's what I want to know.
Lies the problem. I'm sworn to secrecy.
We'll just let you go now.
Maybe the odd snippet.
Oh, that's good enough for me. A tease, listener. A tease. Second up, speaking of spying, this is more stalking, but he made the national news. He's all the way over in America, miles and miles away. And he's not Ginger and he's not Shredder. It's actually our guest this week. It's Devon. Hello, Devon.
Evening, everyone. How are you?
We're all good, sir. Why don't you give the listeners just a brief insight to who you've been stalking and why this week?
Oh, absolutely. Made a little bit of world news with Gonzalo P.T. Martinez coming from River Plate, landing in Atlanta at about 4:39 a.m. Yesterday. So we did PT Watch and got some coverage in Argentina and Ecuador and all over the world, kind of. So it was cool to break the exclusive and be at the airport to see this guy just come in completely jet lagged and wrecked to about 40 or 50 Atlanta United fans cheering his name.
There you go, listeners. You see, you can all get stand at airports in the normal daytime hours, but no. This man takes it to a new level. So there you go. It beats watching teletext and pressing refresh. And speaking of teletext and refresh, that introduces our final guest, chuckling away to himself there. He's actually older than teletext, people tell me. It's Danny the GFP. Hello, Danny.
All right, cheeky monkey. I was when Sean was back last weekend, I was explaining to her what teletext was. She just looked at me. Yeah, I said I didn't get the internet in my house until I was 25. And I said I didn't get my first mobile phone until I was 22. And then it was an old Alcatel, a French company. And then I was trying to explain what digital compared to analog was. And when I finished talking, she was asleep. So there you go. That's the use of today. How are you?
I'm all right. It's just bringing back good memories. Do you remember Bamboozle, that games page on Channel 4?
There was another one as well. It was, and he has now got his own YouTube channel. He used to do the ITV. No, he used to do the BBC one for the gaming, and he is, he has got no idea about technology. The number of podcasts I hear, including his, I think you can just do it by speaking into the bottom of a baked bean can. It's ridiculous.
Sounds like
but yeah.
Yeah.
I want to bring it all the way back, guys, and see if you remember this American classic, Oregon Trail on Macintosh.
I remember it when it was called Macintosh. I can remember that much. I bet even then Danny hated it.
I was a BBC B, and then a Spectrum Plus, and then a Commodore Amiga. That was my route through computing. Oh, Commodore 16 in there somewhere as well. I never owned a single Apple product in my life, and I never will.
I'm going to throw one more in there. I had the Tandy 16. So
rumour has it that BBC computers are what Arsenal use to track stats data on, even with those massive big floppy disks. So there you go. Anyway, that was Games Master, the podcast. If you enjoyed it, please let us know. Patrick Moore is waiting. Right, enough of this nonsensical nonsense. My duties are over. We're going to talk Arsenal now, aren't we? So, Danny, where would you like to begin? I presume Chelsea.
Let's ask our esteemed guest from across the. It's not a pond. It's a big fucking ocean. What he thought about the game?
I thought it was brilliant. First half was a master class. I think second half we kind of coasted a bit. Had Alonso's ball gone in, the one that went off the post, had that gone in, I think it would have been a completely different matchup. But I mean, we played amazing in that first half. The Lacazette's, just the touch off of the Bellerin cross to bring that whipped cross in down and then to slot it near post past Kepa. I thought Kepa played an amazing match for them because it very easily could have been 4-0 in the first half. It was scary to me at first because it looked like we were putting 7 defenders on the pitch, with the 3 defensive mids and the 4 at the back. But it worked. And for everything that we conceded possession-wise, we hit them real hard and real fast on counters, and it worked. I thought Emery outclassed Sarri, and I think he outcoached him.
What did you expect before the game? What was everyone's prediction? Start with you, Devon. Devon, creamy goodness, Devon.
I had us 2-1, but I had a completely different scenario. I had them scoring first, and then my dream scenario was that Mesut was going to come on in the 70th minute and get 2 assists and just stare Emery down. That was what I was thinking was going to happen, but it didn't come to fruition, and it didn't need to. So, but I had 2-1. I had us 2-1.
David, what was your prediction for the game? Because no doubt you put it in your wonderful blog. What was it? And what was your thoughts on the game?
It was 3-2 I was on. And again, I said pretty much what Devon just said about Mesut Ozil coming off the bench to do the business. But no, the game itself was absolutely terrific. From where I was sat, we were at it from the off. We started stronger, faster, fitter, gave them no time at all on the ball. And that was such a pleasant surprise, although it shouldn't have been, because if you think of the other big games at home this season, for example, Tottenham, Liverpool, we've been pretty much the same. And it's starting to now be a worry why we can do that well in the bigger fixtures at home. And yet a week earlier, we'd gone to West Ham and stunk the place out. So that's the only little worry about it all. But, it's Unai Emery's first season, and it's a creditable performance. I thought we were well worth the 3 points. As you say, we rode our bit of luck with the Alonso header against the post. But don't forget, we had chances when Lacazette had one, Aubameyang had one very early that he kind of sliced wide to the far post. He had a couple of attempts. The overhead kick would have been spectacular. But the most pleasing thing of all, and the one little thing I might give away from last Thursday, is that the work that they did in training on Thursday was on the set pieces, and the set pieces, of course, produced both goals. So they were practiced to perfection.
Kris, what was your thoughts on it and your prediction?
Well, it won't surprise you to know that I was positive and had a good feeling about it as usual.
Well, I'm on your boat this season with the Emery love boat. I will have nothing negative said about him or the club.
Just if we start to spring a leak, I will be throwing you overboard. That's all I'm saying.
Sharks.
Weirdly, I actually had us to win 2-0. I didn't put any money on it though, so that was annoying. But no,
you're known for a flutter though, aren't you?
I am, yeah. I made a nice pretty penny off of the Wolves-Leicester game earlier on in the day. But
what a match! It
was mental. But no, I weirdly just thought we'd get a reaction from West Ham, which boy did we get that. The clean sheet was pure fluke. I just had this sort of feeling, and to be perfectly honest with you, Chelsea going forward don't scare me at all. Particularly when they're playing sort of Hazard in that forward role, which is not where he clearly wants to be.
Can you say you clearly didn't pucker when Pedro tried to loop Leno and had running back towards the line?
Oh, I thought that was in. Yeah, I must admit. I thought he'd lobbed it, and I thought that was a clean in. And is also one of those that, having sort of played in similar position myself, when the ball goes over it, it's quite difficult for a defender when you're running back towards your own goal and hoping it drops wide, because believe me, I've seen those sort of balls loop, hit the post, hit the defender and go in, or you sort of running back trying to stay out the way of it and you catch it on your shin or you knee it into your own net. So I was quite pleased.
Tell me, he could have just kicked himself in the face like
that could also have happened. I was really pleased. I've seen this sort of stat that's been working its way around to it, that it was the most we've run since stats were being recorded. I'm not a big lover of stats, as everyone knows, but it was quite interesting to see that we obviously had a reaction from the previous match. So, no money won, but I'll take the lucky prediction on this one.
So, sticking with you, how do you feel about this? Has been the most controversial thing of the game. We'll talk about the game a little bit more in a bit, but while I remember, because I'm cutting and pasting all the listeners' questions, the singing of Giroud. Where did you sit on the Giroud debate, the Giroud gate?
I'll be honest with you. I didn't know there was any debate until you people have started saying there's an issue. I mean, I don't. I'm probably the worst person to ask for this because anybody that knows me knows I really don't have any time for certain players or certain opposition players to the point where I'm notoriously very biased against them. So, but someone like Giroud, no. I mean, Christ, I still have Cesc Fabregas. So, well, I'm probably the worst
nobody can hate Ali. You just can't. No, he didn't leave under. He left to bring us a better player, and he was sold,
wasn't he? He didn't ask. He wanted to play, and ironically now he's not playing. So, it wasn't like he forced his way out the club, or
I have to declare a vested interest. I was one of the ones who was singing it.
There you go.
In case the listeners don't know, David, tell them what happened.
Well, basically, when Giroud came on, there was a tremendous reception for him, first of all. And then the Arsenal, strangely not the Chelsea supporters, started singing the na, 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 na. And off it went. It was kind of organic. And a lot of people, there were thousands of people singing it. And you could see it kind of got to him a little bit. He did applaud everybody before he'd started playing. And I see he was quoted as saying yesterday that he felt he couldn't really put it in against Arsenal because of that, and 2 or 3 times he passed to an Arsenal player because he forgot he wasn't one anymore. Right. Just awesome.
Well, people so criminally underrate Olivier Giroud. He was
absolutely
a £12.5 million signing from Montpellier. That I may have my stats up, but he's a centurion for us, right? He scored 100 for Arsenal. I mean, he's one of those guys that you got so much return on investment for all of the years that he gave you. And yeah, he wasn't the most clinical, but I could guarantee you that he was going to run his socks off, even sometimes if it broke his foot. Ali was a great servant for our club.
He's possibly the best centre forward in Europe with his back to goal.
Mm-hmm. And he did that. And when he came to Arsenal, that wasn't even his job, was it? When he was at Montpellier, it was more crossing the ball in and using his height and power to get it down. But then when he was playing for Arsenal, it's by the way, new way of playing, back to goal, on your own, son, get on with it. And he did. Apart from when that season when Leicester won the league and he went, about 200 league games without a goal or something like that. I can't remember what the exact stat is. Anybody got anything else they want to say about the game? Before, actually, I better say it, otherwise I'll forget. The one thing I noticed from the game is we've seen all season that when we are doing our playing out from the back, that all you have to do is you harass the players that are going to get the ball, which is usually either the wing backs or either the centre backs. You harass those and then you cut that off and then have to keep giving it back to the goalkeeper. I noticed that when Chelsea were playing, the only player that was doing that was Hazard. And then so Leno was going, oh, well, I've got everyone I can pass to. It's like the good old days when I didn't have a player breathing down my neck the entire time. Did anyone else notice that?
I did notice that, and I've got one other point that I want to bring up.
Go on then.
75 million pounds for Jorginho, 30 million pounds for Lucas Torreira. We won that game.
He was
brilliant. Absolutely.
That was their key man, though, to keep quiet. You keep him quiet, and that's it. You've done them.
And hey, you took N'Golo Kanté, the best center defensive mid in the Premier League, and you've displaced him because Sarri has a player that he's comfortable with. I'm not a Chelsea fan, and I don't claim to be. I wish as much bad as could happen to that club as possible, but it makes no sense what they're doing with N'Golo Kanté. They are square peg, round holing, him into a side when he's the best player at his position. But it's very similar to the Mesut Ozil situation with us. It's just, where does he fit the coach's style? And it's different at Chelsea where they seem to have a new manager every 18 months. So I wouldn't sacrifice N'Golo Kanté, but you spend 75 million on a guy. So
yeah, and some people ringing up Radio 5 Chelsea fans saying they want him gone. Did anyone hear that?
Yeah.
Oh,
it's quite funny, really, isn't it? Chelsea managers wanting, Chelsea fans wanting a manager gone. Who'd have thought? Who'd have thought that? I don't know if you've listened to 606, don't you, Danny? Did you hear that fan who rang up who rang him up and he said, it's disgraceful. We're Chelsea. We're not Arsenal. We're not Man United. We're not Spurs. We're a successful club. We've got a history. Oh, I nearly fell out my chair laughing.
Good job, I did.
Save the bridge.
Yeah.
Oh, dear. What were you going to say, David?
The other thing that we should mention about the game is the performance of the back four, and particularly the two central defenders. I thought Laurent Koscielny has looked decidedly dodgy lately. He was absolutely imperious on Saturday, as was Papa alongside him. Socrates was outstanding. And of course, the only blot on that copybook is that Hector Bellerin's injury. That's absolutely devastating for us now. The third season-long injury, and that's probably two of our best back four players in Rob Holding and Hector gone.
And with that injury and with that time frame, you're talking about that dragging on. I mean, I know everybody thinks that you can just run through an ACL in 6 months because some people have done it.
He'll be lucky to be back by Christmas.
He'd be lucky to be back by Christmas, because that's the main thing that people forget is while you may be healed, there's still a mental aspect that's going to come. I mean, non-contact injuries, for people that don't know, there's the mentality of, if I take a step, is this thing going to go? It's not like a broken leg where somebody clatters you and you heal, because that's a mental issue too. But nobody touched Hector. You know, nobody, he turned the wrong way and everything went. So he's got to get that, through his mind. He's got to get mentally strong as well as physically strong. And that takes a while. That can take up to a calendar year, if not more.
Yeah, Don was saying on the ABW Live, he kind of figured the entire thing out before it has been officially released, and I think he was saying that in some ways it could be better than an ACL because of where on the body that it is. You have to go back and listen to the live show with him at the weekend, but
it has been confirmed as an ACL, Danny.
Has it?
Yeah.
Yes. It's been confirmed as an ACL because the big worry originally from the video, from the people doing the slow motion video, was that it was a quadriceps tendon. And that, those with surgery require immobilization and 9 months plus to come back from. So I guess there's your good news, is that it is an ACL and that these surgeries are common, and it's not, a connecting tendon, from a major muscle in the leg. My biggest fear is, Hector is, we've all said this many times, and I'm sure we've said it on the pod, Hector is a flair defender. He's not a get stuck in, hold a guy down. He's gonna run up the pitch and try to contribute offensively, but also be that guy that relies on his speed and his technical ability to get the ball away from some attackers. So my main concern is, if he loses a step, is he still a defender?
It's a tough one. The reason I didn't know is because I only woke up at 5 today. I've not even turned the TV on yet, and so when I heard yesterday they were still waiting for the swelling to go down before they could put an MRI or something on him. Yes. So what are we going to do about that? Because we need another right back. We've got Jenkinson. And he gets grief from the fans, and I think Lichtsteiner has already proved that he is not capable of playing week in, week out for us. Especially coming up to February and March, we're going to be playing two games a week, isn't it? We're back in the Europa League. What are we going to do, Chris?
Well, I think the logical thing is Ainsley Maitland-Niles will likely get the nod. I sort of feel sorry for him really, because he's playing every position, but the one that I think he'd probably like to play. But when you're sort of in the position that he's in, you get an opportunity to play for Arsenal, you're going to take it. He's done a good job at fullback for us before. He doesn't replicate what Bellerin does give us attacking wise, but defensively, I'd say he's arguably on par. I love Hector to bits, but I don't think he's a particularly good defender. I think he's come on a lot this season since from previous, but obviously his strength is going forward. I think Maitland-Niles will give us that. But yeah, I mean, I think Maitland-Niles will be the logical one to put in. I wouldn't be against giving Jenkinson a few games if you look at some of the fixtures we've got, particularly if you look at the Cardiff game I'm looking at, especially would be a game where I wouldn't have any issues putting Jenkinson in myself. So I do think it's. I think Emery actually mentioned him by name in the press conference the other day, which
he said we still have him here. He said we still have him here. But those two players alone, those two players that you mentioned, and I'm sure we'll get into this later on in the pod, that's $150,000 a week. Lichtsteiner's on 90, Jenkinson's on 60. You better be ready to play. I'm sorry, it's next man up. You're making a lot of money, and it's time to play. It's time to go. If it's Ainsley, if we have a situation where it's another three matches in 9 days, somebody better be ready to step up, because we can't sacrifice players and get players injured because we have the transfer policy that we do, and we have 3 legit players that can play right back, and Monreal in a pinch if we decide to go that route. But I need to see players making serious money step up and be available.
David, how do you see it going?
If you have a think back to, was it 2013, when Jenko had to step up for a run of games, he actually turned into a very dependable performer. It's only in the years since, when he's come in for the odd game here and there, that he hasn't really looked as though he's at the races. So I would say, if you're going to go with Carl Jenkinson, then say to him, right, you've got the next 12 games to make an impact, to recover that form, or you're out. But picking him here and there, I don't think is an option for Carl.
I think that could apply to any player, though, couldn't it? So if we go around, we start with you, David. Who are we going to pick against Man United, and who are we going to pick for the next run of games? You sticking Jenkinson?
No, I think that Unai Emery will start with Ainsley Maitland-Niles, because he has no memory or history with Carl Jenkinson and doesn't know what he's really capable of. So I think he'll go with Ainsley Maitland-Niles purely because of his strength.
Devon?
I'm going to throw a name that none of us have talked about. I mean, I know he'd probably be out of position, but if he's healthy, why not put Nacho Monreal out there?
Oh, wow.
I would throw another one in as well. If you're not going to play Maitland-Niles, Mustafi has played right back for Germany a few times.
Good guess. The World Cup run, he had a few games, didn't he?
Didn't he slide into right back for us early? He slid into right back earlier for us this season.
How ironic that you say slide in. It's not like he ever leaves his feet, is it? But
human luge.
Yeah, and do you know what? In a weird way, it might not be the worst decision in the world to play in there. Particularly, I'm looking at Friday in particular, where you want a strong defensive base and you want arguably your most experienced defenders out there. It wouldn't be the worst idea in the world. We'll probably come on to it when we talk about the transfer thing in Fire's Forum, but there is a name floating around at the moment who could possibly fill 2 roles, including right back. So we'll tease that for now. We'll talk about that a bit later. But I think Maitland-Niles or Mustafi are probably the front runners.
And Monreal could slide in at centre back too.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's definitely an option there. I think Lichtsteiner not even being in the squad was interesting at the weekend.
That's why I asked.
Yeah, I feel a little bit for him, because he was clearly bought as a behind the scenes signing, with the idea of you come in for some of the Europa games, some of the FA Cup games, if we have a run in the Carabao Cup. I don't think he was
in the deep end, wasn't he?
Yeah, and I don't think he was ever brought in as a quote unquote first team squad player. And I know people will be argued straight away and say, well, if you're brought in, you've got to be expected to play. And I agree with that. But there are certain players that are brought in for a small role, a low key role. You could argue Petr Cech is the same now.
I always saw him and Per Mertesacker and Petr Cech as semi managers on the training pitch.
Yeah,
because you've got a youth academy, you've got under 19s and under 21s that are going to be learning from these legends. Lichtsteiner's won trophies, he's won Scudettos, he's won he's won a lot. So there's knowledge to be expounded. There's things to be shared, little nuances of the game that he can share. Maybe do this to shield your guy to the sideline. Just little bits of knowledge that come from a decade plus of professional service.
I agree.
When you look at Stefan's time in Italy, he's 35 now, but for the last 2 seasons, he had gone from being their regular right back to being a bit of a Grimandi, playing all over the place and not really playing much. He's winding his career down. And then to come to Arsenal and go, by the way, your second game, was it second game here he played at left back? First game, was it? He came on and played at left back, and then he had a few games at right back, and then he was playing the Europa League games. I don't think anybody, including him, expected to come and be a regular starter. So do you think maybe, Devon, we're going to go to 3 at the back? Would that work better? But then we wouldn't have to worry.
Yeah, I could see it working better. And didn't he come on for Ainsley when Ainsley broke his leg?
He did. He came on and played left back.
Yeah. He came on and played. So I don't fault Lichtsteiner. Granted, we see what he is. He is what he is, and And we have to accept that. Now, the whole thing is moving forward. What's going to work best? I like 3 at the back. I think 3 at the back with, a Guendouzi, Xhaka, Torreira pairing, if you're going to do something like that in the center. I mean, it leaves a lot to be desired creatively, but if Ramsey's going to give you the effort that he gave you on Sunday or on Saturday for the rest of the season, then, it might work. He actually fits in that, top of the diamond midfield, feeding Lacazette and Aubameyang. I felt like Saturday was kind of a coming out party for Aaron Ramsey, although he didn't get on the score sheet.
So, Kris, would you say that Kola, his best position is left wing back? And if we play 3 at the back, that's going to make him have less defensive duties and more creativity from the side, which is something we lacked against West Ham, isn't it?
Yeah. It's a really difficult one with Kolasinac because he's just one of those players that sometimes I watch him and I go, yeah, there's a player there, and then other days I watch him and I go, Christ, what's he doing now? It's a very difficult one to put your finger on what he is and what his best position is. I do think a left wing back in a back five is his best position, but then he showed on Saturday when he sort of pushed Pedro back to La Masia at one point in the second half. He's physical. He's aggressive. You just almost want him to learn how to tackle, but then at the same time we spent, as we've already mentioned, 35 million quid on a defender who can't defend. So maybe that's a bit harsh, or a guy who is probably overpriced in Mustafi. So maybe it's just that he needs, a bit like Dave said with Jenkinson, he needs a run of games. Monreal, okay, he's been injured, but he does appear to be keeping him out the side at the moment. And I think he fits the Emery type of fullback. If you look at what he had at Sevilla, and particularly sort of in my knowledge base at PSG, where he had Dani Alves on one side and Kazawa predominantly on the other side, he does like attacking fullbacks.
Helps to have Marquinhos and Thiago Silva as well.
Certainly does. Yeah,
doesn't hurt to have those guys.
No, and one thing's for sure, Kolasinac is an attacking fullback at very best. At his very best, he's better going forward. So, and something we haven't mentioned, and I will just touch on my thoughts on Lolo Koscielny as well. If you've got your best 2 centre backs, which for me are Koscielny and Papadopoulos, which I thought even before Kos came back, Kos is still our best defender. Anyone that thinks differently, for me is wrong. Is he at the back end of his career? Absolutely. Has he still got some issues in terms of mobility? Yes. But what he gives you is the ability to turn in a performance like he did on Saturday, where he was faultless. It wasn't just his goal. It wasn't just his, a few good tackles. He took one in the balls. His positional play and his ability to read the game is better than anybody that I've seen for many years. The problem with Kos is that you can't rely on him at this stage in terms of injury. But if you're putting him and Socrates together, you've got your strongest shithousery back 2. And you can probably then afford to have more attacking fullbacks because you're conscious that at least you've got your 2 strongest centre backs in place. So maybe we can not get away with it, but maybe we can look at playing Kolasinac as a left back and building around those 2 strong centre backs.
So I have a request for anybody that goes to the matches. Please just start screaming shoot when he gets close. He's been straight on with the keeper and has passed off to try to hit Lacazette or Aubameyang. But it's like, I swear every match this season, he makes that bolt down the sideline, cuts in, is one-on-one with the goalkeeper and passes it into a crowd. I want to see him rip it into the back of the net.
Yeah.
You got anything to add, David?
No, I don't think so. I think Kris covered it pretty comprehensively. Devon, I hear you about the back 3. When Arsene Wenger played the back 3 at times for big matches, I was a big fan of that, and of course it won us a cup final against Chelsea. But I will say this season we've tried that back 3. It doesn't work for Unai for some reason. It'll be something integral in what they're trying to do. And so, no, I was mighty pleased to see the back four there on Saturday, because you can't play a diamond midfield if you've got a back three. You have to lose your number 10. And
we get very narrow, too.
That would have cost, that would have cost us Ramsey on Saturday. So it's just not practical.
So
one thing I see with the diamond in the back three is we squeeze very narrow. In the back four, you do see the width being brought in from the fullbacks.
And they get protected and covered by Torreira and Guendouzi, so we're not exposed on the flanks.
Kris was saying about Lolo. I'll join in with the Lolo love. That it reminded me of old school Arsenal defenders when the ball came at him, he blocked the ball. He didn't go, "Oh no, my hair! Oh my pretty face! Oh no!" He went there, "I'm a man." Tony Adams would have just stood up and given him a bow and a round of applause. That was magnificent.
He's getting a whiff of Tony Adams in the hair department now, isn't he?
I did say it does look a bit unkempt for a Frenchman, doesn't he?
He does. He's I don't know whether he's had a bit of work done or he's found just for men, or he's looking quite handsome. I found myself sort of swooning a bit at times. But he's the other thing that slightly, I think people sort of maybe slightly go under the radar with Koscielny as well, is he's been there and he's done it all. He knows the club inside out.
He hasn't done it all, has he? He was injured.
Well, you know what I mean. I mean, he's done it all.
He doesn't hear this. Just make him cry.
Sorry, bloke. But he's been there. He's seen it. He's seen managers. Well, he's seen a manager come and go. He's seen countless players come and go. Formations, tactics, the lot. And he knows the Premier League inside and out. So he's a perfect rock to sort of build yourself around. And it's why it's a bit of a shame that potentially we won't be able to bring in defenders, although I do have a small rant on that later on, because it would be nice for them to learn under him. And I've got this sort of nagging feeling in my mind that he will be let go in the summer, which I think would be a real shame.
You still think they're going to let him go?
I do. I mean,
maybe he'll want to go back home and spend his last couple of years back in France.
Well, he said he wants to go back to Lorient to finish his career, which would be lovely, especially if Lorient get promoted. But maybe
you're moist at the thought of that, aren't you? Back at your club.
Yeah, but maybe another year down the line. No, I just think that maybe Emery will look to go in a different direction. He likes quick, mobile defenders, and I think Socrates was already signed before he got there. I think it's why Mustafi gets as many games as he does. But a lot of that will depend on whether the Rams win the Super Bowl or not, and whether Stan gets a big payday.
Could you see Lolo as a manager or an academy coach?
Yeah, absolutely. Either or. I think in the long run, I think he will go into coaching.
He and Per were closest of friends, and with Mertesacker in charge of the academy, that would only seem like a natural transition point.
And he's apparently he's brilliant around the youngsters. I'd be interested to see whether Dave saw is sort of what Dave saw in training in terms of.
I don't think he's going to tell us, are you, Dave?
Well, I wasn't looking. I wasn't looking for inside secrets. I was just curious about how. We've seen the mood lifted this year. Would you describe it, Dave, as quite? Are there clear leaders in training still, or is it very much the coaches doing their coaching, the players following?
It is completely different than it was under Arsene Wenger. I think I can quite safely say that and get away with it. There were. Unai Emery was clearly in charge of the session on Thursday, almost uniquely in charge of it. He had a lot to say. He had a lot to say, interestingly, to Mesut Ozil. They seemed to have a perfectly good understanding of each other. Ozil played a full part in the exercises that followed. I was surprised that he didn't get on, but I think that was probably down more to the Bellerin injury, changing the situation, than any snub for Ozil. He seems to be very much in the thoughts in terms of a comeback. The other thing is that you never saw I never saw a session like it under Wenger, who used to do very technical drills involving all of the players all of the time. Whereas there were quite a few who were standing around while they were doing these set piece drills. Well, not standing around so much, but he broke them up into 2 parties of 11. One party disappeared to the other side and played a bit of head tennis or something, while the other 11 worked on the things that they did, but not
So
all
he had
of them
starters
were
and
involved
subs?
all the time.
He had a starters and subs split, kind of,
No,
separation, or-
no. Because interestingly, if it had been, then most of those who started were on the same 11 as Mesut Ozil. So no, it wasn't split in that way at all. But it was very interesting. The other interesting thing, there was a scary bit. I must tell you this, because we were told before we went out there, you're okay taking still photographs, but do not film anything. And the moment I picked up my camera to take up a still photograph, Juan Carcedo came straight over and said, "No photographs." You don't argue with that fella.
No, I can imagine that much. He's quite the presence, isn't he?
Yeah.
Did you ask
I
him if
have
he
a-
listens
I
to
have
the
a
pod?
question.
No.
I have a question about practice. Does the team go 11-11, 11v11 a lot? I mean, do they go full pitch against each other, or is it more small drill tiki taka style?
If Dave leaves a silence here, that means he's not allowed to answer.
Okay.
He's gone quiet. Okay. Superbly done.
Say no more.
One thing. Go on, Dave.
No, I was going to say on Thursday, they did do warm-ups before they did what they did. I understand that every day is different, whereas most days under Wenger were the same. But any further than that, no.
Well, I bring it up because there was a big deal over here in the States about Frank de Boer's first practice as head coach and manager of Atlanta United was an 11v11 full-out scrimmage.
De Boer's your new manager.
Yes, Frank de Boer is the new manager at Atlanta United.
Wow, that's bloody good for you, you jammy swines.
We're quite excited. He's a good guy too.
He's brilliant. Go back and look at his Ajax days, mate. We might even get Bergkamp to come over there with him because they were good
we're
mates.
hoping for Piol. He brought in Trustful, Orlando Trustful.
Yeah.
He filled out his staff, so we're hoping that Carlos Piol and Dennis Bergkamp will come in as consultants.
Wow.
But we have an academy set up. I mean, our under 15s and under 17s are winning national tournaments, and our under 19s just played in Germany against Bayern Munich's under 19s, and it did really well. So we have an academy system. I think he's going to replicate what he did at Ajax, and I think he's going to stay here a long time.
And
Well,
Danny,
yes, go on.
who did Orlando Trustful play for in the Premier League?
Sheffield Wednesday.
Well done, alongside the legend that is Reggie Blinker. Yeah, there you go.
One for the kiddies.
Oh, yeah.
If you like a little bit of MLS talk, just tweet us and let us know, because me, Kris, Devon, and there's is it Rob Ford, another one that you did. Who did you did one before with?
Jimmy and Pat.
Oh, we never know. Might even do the odd MLS one, because I love my MLS. But I've been
No, I would love to have it. I would love to have you
Season,
guys. And if you come to Atlanta, you have to come to a United match. I mean, we had 73,000 for MLS Cup. We average over 55,000. We average more than Chelsea and Man City and Liverpool. I know that made a lot of people upset when I tweeted that, but it's just the facts. We average a larger attendance. We're the 14th highest attended club in the world.
I was going to say, do you average more than Spurs? But I think my Sunday League games get more fans than Spurs do every week. So.
But
Do they have an official stadium yet to actually do a count?
No.
I'll see you by Christmas. Don't worry.
On that, name me another club that wouldn't be docked points by the FA if they didn't have the Golden Boy.
Don't
Hang on a
give me
minute
that.
while I go quiet again.
Yeah.
That's through rage, is it, Dave? You just imagine, people, if it was Arsenal doing it, we'd be playing in the conference by now.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's what we're going to say. But there again, good news today that I did hear on Radio 5 that Ali is out till March.
Yes.
And,
Delighted
Kate
at that news.
is off playing.
Stay
for
away
Korea.
from Miguel Almiron, Daniel Levy. Stay away.
So we're just fingers crossed, people, that I think South Korea are playing tonight, or they did play. I know they're playing. Oh, here we go. Yeah, they beat Bahrain 2-1. That's another.
Don't say what you're going to say, Danny.
No,
Do not say it.
it's mean about South
I am going to be your conscience.
I don't know. I'm not going to do that. Save that for somebody else we all love and adore. No, so come on, South Korea, get to the final. That's just, the internet they have on their trains is better than stuff I have at home. It's ridiculous. So, yeah, come on. I am supporting South Korea in this, and hopefully they'll get all the way to the final, and Song will play every minute of every game. And yes, good luck to them.
And then maybe his legs fall off.
So there you go. So they've got no play. They're having to play Loldado up front.
I'll tell you what. If you're that Boyd Janssen, you've got to be feeling bad.
He was blown, wasn't he?
He was playing for the under 20s. He's training with the under 23s. He can't even get ahead of Lorente. It's hilarious.
Oh. Anyway,
what a shit show they are.
People, before we move on to the Man United game, I think we should just have a little bit of chat about that because it is an important game. There was a lot of booing when the manager took Lacazette off at the weekend. Now, my theory on this was that when he brought on Maitland-Niles and Iwobi, he wanted those two because they're as quick as the wind, and they wanted Aubameyang up front also as quick as the wind. So that was the plan. And the moment he brought those two on, Bellerin got injured, and then he went, well, I can't do this anymore. And if he'd have known that, he may not have taken him off. Dave, what do you think? You were there, were you?
Yes, I was there.
Yes,
it's getting frustrating that he keeps on taking off the one player who can play in this side with his back to goal. So I understood but I don't understand why people get annoyed about it, because people have paid good money to be in the ground. They're entitled to voice an opinion. And 10 seconds of relatively light booing isn't a mass protest movement. It's people saying, hang on a minute, we like this guy. Why are we always taking him off after 70 minutes?
And you saw his agent came out and said something about it on Twitter too. Like, why are you taking him off? Bye, next chapter.
Yeah.
Well, no, actually,
I wouldn't read into that too much.
Let me just say something to his credit. For the first time, he usually looks pretty pissed off when he's taken off. And on Saturday, I think he heard the boos. He suddenly turned and he smiled and he nodded at people and kind of made a point of shaking Emery's hand when he went. And so he kind of diffused the situation, which isn't kind of a surprise because they've got a real good spirit running through that club at the moment.
The other thing you have to factor in as well, and for the record, I agree with everything you said there, Dave. I think people have the right to voice their opinion. The only bit that frustrates me is everyone's an expert. Everyone sitting there is an expert. They all think they know it all. People don't see what goes on in training, and let's just cast our mind back. This isn't a new problem. Alex Lacazette was subbed a lot under Arsene Wenger as well. The French league, for all its criticism, less said the better. It's a very physical, taxing game. However, in the French league, there is more space, more time. The defenders are obviously not quite at the level of the Premier League. And Alex played in
pedestrian.
That's also very true. And Alex was a player that would frequently complete 90 minutes for Lyon. This is a different league. And he's a very... people are going to hate me for using a FIFA analogy, but he's what I'd call a high player. He's got high work rate, and that's both forwards and backwards. He works his arse off. And sometimes, if you're a professional footballer and you love the game, you want to play every minute of every game. And if you don't, there's something wrong with you. But sometimes you have to know that the managers make decisions for the reasons. I've had it at my level. You sub a player who's, scored 2 goals, is having a blinder, and with 20 minutes to go, you take him off, and he gives you all this abuse. I was on a hat trick. I was this. I was that. If you go on and win that game 3-0 or just stick to 2-0, nobody says a thing. It's only when it backfires that people start going, see, I told you so. And we don't know what goes on in the medical side. We don't know what goes on in the preparation side. Lacazette's a very happy centre forward. I think the only thing that people probably look at is they go, why is Aubameyang never subbed off? Mainly because the guy could just run for hours, and his game is very different. Yeah, and he's
a gazelle,
and he's a poacher. He's a centre forward who just he is that fox in the box fable that we didn't have. Lacazette will work his arse off. So sometimes you've got to protect players from themselves. And it's just I just think it's a little bit easy to sort of boo decisions when you don't really understand them.
Kris, I want to ask you a question real quick, and I want to get your comparison on this. This goes to everybody. With Sanchez, when he got subbed off, you got petulance,
Yep.
and I call it childishness. in this last reaction from Lacazette, I saw professionalism, even if he wasn't happy about being taken off.
Yeah.
He recognized the atmosphere, and he did everything in his power, like you said, to resolve and show a unity that, you know, is becoming of a captain. You know, that's something that's a notice. That's a catch by somebody. That's saying this could get nasty for no reason. We're winning 2-0. I'm going to diffuse it immediately. And I thought that was brilliant. That was a great show of big team, little me by Alex Lacazette.
Absolutely.
And Kris made another great point there. But on Saturday, 2 of the best defensive tackles of the match were made by Lacazette and Aubameyang.
Yep.
And it was absolutely brilliant, the work that they were putting in all over the park, but from front to back and vice versa.
Yeah.
And Hazard should have seen yellow for simulation on that tackle.
Yeah.
There were a few that got away with just yellows. Well, a couple I thought got away with yellows that might have been red.
Hmm.
So do you think we've covered that wonderful, magnificent
Done it to death.
result?
Why don't we go? Done it to death. Why don't we go to questions?
Yeah.
I was going to talk about Man United a bit first, but just quickly. But I'm just looking at I've got a thing of our last 4 seasons, this one and the 3 before. So far, against the top 1, 2, 3, 4, the big 5 oppositions. This season, with 3 games to go, we've got 8 points against them. Last season, we had 6. Season before that, 9. Season before that, 11. So we are on course to. It looks like we are improving in some of those games, especially of the Spurs and Chelsea ones, which are the ones that mean the most to me, I suppose. Thoughts about the Man United game, David? What should we look out for? Have you done a blog about it yet?
No, I haven't. I haven't really considered it yet, but I'm basking in the glory of beating Chelsea, it has to be said. But United, I'm expecting more of the same because of the nature of the opposition, because it's another big game. There will be those who will say, let's go with a weakened side. We don't really have much of a weakened side anymore.
It's already playing.
Yeah. So, no, I'd play the strongest 11 you've got. If we get comfortably ahead, then start making changes. But don't do it the other way around. Start with a weakened side and go 2 down. You're out of the FA Cup.
True. Devon, now that Man United are officially the greatest team in the world because they've beat Cardiff, Huddersfield, Bournemouth, Newcastle, Reading, Brighton, and some scumbags up at N17, are you shaking in your boots because of the quality of the teams they're smashing that everyone else has bloody beat?
You literally just took the words out of my mouth. I scrolled back through a message where I was like, I was fully ready to go in and just say, like, if Arsenal had beaten Cardiff, Huddersfield, Bournemouth, Newcastle, Reading, people would be sitting back saying, that's 15 points you were supposed to get. Shut up. And
it was.
I've told every Man United fan that no matter how much you hate Mourinho and his shithousery, if you're going to look me in the face and tell me that you didn't expect to win those matches, you're a liar. You're a liar. I could manage that team to 15 points against those clubs. So let's have some perspective. Let's have some reality checks. Man United is on a run, and anytime a team has positivity and just a good feeling flowing through the team, they're dangerous. I think Marcus Rashford is one of the top attacking talents, young talents in the Prem. I think that he is showing you what he can do. Pogba, we all know, is one of the better creative central mid players in the world. They've got a £1 billion lineup that was underperforming. They're going to get what I see to be their first real test because I don't think Spurs are as good as advertised. I'm ready for that crash. I'm ready to see, just what they have. So I think, like was said by Dave, bring your strongest 11 and punch them in the mouth.
Kris, before we move on, what's your thoughts on the Man United game? Is it going to be as are we going to get thrashed like they thrash all the other minnows?
Well, I think, to be fair, for Sir Alex Ferguson to come back from that, I was
explaining that to someone the other day. I said, if anyone thinks that is Ollie doing all of this, you're right, you're off your cracker. I don't even know what a cracker is, but you're off it.
I mean, credit where due. I mean, the one thing I will say is I think Solskjaer is probably a decent enough bloke. I think Terry Phelan and the rest of the guys that have come back, and there's no Man United fan walking the face of the earth today that can't deny that Ferguson has some sort of input. And do you know what? He's earned that. So fair enough.
Oh, yes.
I don't think anyone would have an issue. Well, actually, our fan base would. But if Arsene Wenger was helping out a young developing coach, I don't think anyone would have anything to say about it if they looked at it from the right angle. So no, I think what they've done has been the new manager bounce has been interesting. The idea that some of these players have underperformed, I suppose I'm slightly biased towards the Pogba situation, given the fact that that there is a player in there, and I'm not comfortable with the idea that he down tools. I do find it hilarious that Mark Henry is now on the bench. That's Romelu Lukaku, for anyone who knows their wrestling. And
world's strongest man.
Indeed, somebody going to get their ass kicked. And I'm very much enjoying seeing Anthony Martial become a footballer again. And more importantly than any of that, there's no more Jose Mourinho. The downside, of course, is that means Man United are at the moment riding the crest of a wave. It would be very, very nice to take that wave away from them on Friday. And we've got every opportunity to do so. It's one of those that if we were to lose, I think I'd probably get over it fairly quickly, just because I look at what we've got in front of us in the league and, more importantly, the Europa League at this point. And I think to myself, with this squad and these injuries, I'm not doing that whole would it be a bad thing, because obviously, of course, you want to win. But I just think I would get over a loss. That said, I think whatever happens, we need to get that game done that night, because a replay will be the last thing we need, particularly going up there. I think this is our opportunity. And of course, you don't know what side they'll play. I do expect them to rotate a little bit. I think probably you'll actually see Lukaku start that game. Their defence is still not watertight. Brighton had a lot of opportunities on Saturday. There's been a few games. I mean, let's be honest, Spurs battered them second half, but for some appalling finishing and some decent goalkeeping, they would have got beat that day. So, yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic, but I'm not going to. I'm not going to sort of cry myself to sleep if it doesn't go our way. So, call me negative, but that's kind of how I feel about it all.
Okie dokie. Right. Shall we move on to listeners' questions? One each.
Good man.
We shall start with Devon. This is from Anthony Lawani. Says, why are loan signings good enough for the likes of Juventus, Bayern, Atletico Madrid, but not Arsenal? Juventus have been doing it ever since they built their new stadium. Are Atletico fans kicking off about getting Morata on loan? No, they're not.
I mean, my biggest answer to that would be the quality of the player, and they're typically loans with options to buy. So if you want to compare Alvaro Morata, I'll throw you Kim Kallstrom. I mean, do you really want to do that? Do you really want to talk? I mean, why is it acceptable? Because look at who they're loaning. I mean, when you're PSG and you loan in Kylian Mbappe, or it's like that's kind of a weird question to me, because you got to look at each individual situation and you got to look at each individual player. I don't think we're bringing in Denis Suarez. I mean, he's a name. I still think Unai Emery would wait till the summer and bring in Ever Banega, because I think he's a player that he's comfortable with, even though he's older. I've seen rumors about James Rodriguez and all these other things, but back to the original question, it all breaks down to the player and the situation. And in most of the situations where we've loaned players, it's been Yossi Benayoun or, like I said, like Kim Kallstrom. What has it benefited our squad? So to answer your question, it all breaks down to the situation and the player.
Suarez is off, isn't it? From what I can gather.
Yeah, our blog has just tweeted that the negotiations broke down.
Ah, okay. I didn't realise that. What has he said? That's official, because I got told that.
I'll just put it in our chat box. It says Barcelona and Arsenal break off negotiations over Denis Suarez. Yes. Straight from our blog's mouth, and we all know that he is a quality when it comes to stuff like that. So
you're almost positive that Barcelona said you're going to give us money, or
that's exactly what happened.
Loan you this player,
20 million, isn't it?
I had a chat with Joel, who Danny,
yes, Liverpool fan.
he used to pod with. No, he's a Hull fan, you tit, and a Barcelona fan.
Oh, is he in Liverpool?
No, he's in Hull.
Go on.
Nice try.
I didn't know him.
Anyway,
he used to be on the hipsters.
Yes, Joel Melwar. He was saying that throughout from day one, Barcelona have said we want money. End of story. It doesn't matter whether you pay us half now and half of the sum. We want money.
They don't have it because they're getting Kevin Prince Bowen.
Indeed, KDB. Or KPB, sorry. But yes,
KDB.
Yeah, that would be nice. So yeah, it sounds like that's gone. I would also suggest just maybe that Hector Bellerin's injury might have something to do with that. If we've got the budget for, let's say, because you can only loan 2 players, can't you, in one window? So maybe we've looked at it and gone, do you know what? I mean, I can't actually imagine Arsenal have sat there and looked at it and gone, do you know what we could really do with right now? Another midfielder. And then somebody stopped and went, we could do with a defender. And they went, defenders. Let's go and get one of those.
I know it wasn't a question posed to me, but I wanted to throw it out because we haven't gotten to it. Like, if you had a dream right back that could play multiples, do you guys have a name? Because I certainly have a name in mind. I would love to see Jabril Sidibe in an Arsenal kit.
Yeah. He is one that's going to go. He's been injured for the longest time this season, and he is probably one of the last remaining few assets Monaco can sell. Sadly, I don't think it's going to be to us. I think it's going to be to somewhere in Germany. That's what I gather. The one that's interesting me at the moment is Gelson Martins, which was teased from earlier on in the pod. Apparently, Atletico Madrid are keen to give him some football. They don't want to sell him. And he's a player who can operate at right wing. He's kind of a class and actually can operate at right wing back or advanced midfield. I wonder if that's an avenue we could go at, because we looked at him in the summer and obviously it didn't happen. So maybe that could be revisited. But particularly if they're looking to bring in Morata, they need to shift one off the wage bill. Maybe. But yeah, it's a difficult one. And I'll have a very brief rant about transfers later on if the questions allow it. But yeah, it's not been great, to be fair, is it?
Yes, right. Cheers, Anthony. Question for David from Kyle Palmer. Putting aside talk of Ramsey as a club legend, and he's put in brackets, he is, do you think he deserves a testimonial having been at the club for a decade? And what players deserved one that never got one?
Oh.
Goodness me, there's one, eh?
Ray Parlour, I just listened to his book. He should have got one, but he didn't. He gave it up for someone else. Someone else had one instead of him. So that was one who definitely should have got one.
There was a run of them around about that time, wasn't there? And the skipper had one, and Martin
had two.
In all honesty, these days, the difference between now and then, of course, is the money that they're earning today. So I think testimonials are probably a thing of the past. I don't think that Dennis would have got one had we not had to hold a test event at the Emirates before we moved in. Yeah. So I think Dennis is going to be the last one that you're going to see. I think Cesc, from memory, was here 10 years, wasn't he? He didn't get one.
Yeah. Jenkinson's only got a year to go.
Yeah, well,
I think the trouble
actually,
is,
Jenko, you should give one, because he's like,
he's a good
if they'd have given a testimonial to Cesc, I think Jason might have gone up and burnt the Emirates down. So it's probably a good job they didn't actually do that. So,
did they give a testimonial to Walcott?
No, another one.
No, just a ceremonial wide cross.
He was allowed to run the length of the pitch and land up in the crowd.
Unlucky Theo.
Unlucky Theo. I was quite surprised that Fabian Caballero never got a testimonial. That's one for the old school. Yeah, it doesn't happen anymore, does it? It's a shame.
Takuma Asano must be coming up for one.
Ended up at Dundee.
I went to Martin Keown's. That was against Celtic, wasn't it? I think, from memory.
Yes, I think yes, it was.
Yeah, I've got the programme downstairs. I remember going to it, but I think it was Celtic. Wasn't it Lee Dixon and Keown at the same time? Wasn't it? Didn't they ever?
Dixon had one. Winterburn, Seaman, Adams had two. Merson had one. That was against Select 11 when Gaza played for Arsenal, and the Arsenal young goalkeeper wouldn't let Charlie Nicholas score because everyone was booing him.
Wasn't Tony's against AC Milan? Was that?
And Crystal Palace, the first one. It was organised on 5 minutes' notice, wasn't it, David?
Yeah.
It was terrible. Dave, check your WhatsApp. Next question for Nicky Wilson, from Nicky Wilson for you, Chris. Oh God, I've not even planned this. Prepare for a rant, people. Who do you think is the most overrated player in Premiership, past and present? Got to be Scholes and Hazard for me.
Any Spurs player. And so, I mean, come on, did you really expect me to answer any other way to that? I could reel them off, but no, any Spurs player.
Roberto Soldado.
Soldado, bless him.
As long as all season, he'll get a medal from us.
I can't think of many that have come in and. I'm trying to think who's come in like over the season. I mean, Alexis Sanchez is probably quite high in the bracket since he went to United. No, I mean, there's a long list. Who's the names he gave? Sorry, Scholes, Keane.
He gave Scholes, past, Hazard, present. I don't say anybody could say Hazard. That's just Nicky Wilson. He's
Hazard is Bakayoko.
Yeah, I mean, although saying that he was rated, but I wouldn't say he was overrated. He just didn't cut it. Hazard's an interesting one because I look at him week after week and I think you've got everything, but sometimes you look at him and you just think he can't be bothered. He's almost like Chelsea beneath him.
Not last season, but the one before that week did he get 3 goals all season?
Yeah,
just could not be asked.
And yeah, he could go to Madrid and be their best player easily. He's one of those that he's got untold amounts of ability. I can't deny that. But I mean, to be fair, would you play at Chelsea? I'm not sure I would. But yeah, I mean, it's a good question to be fair, but there's probably thousands. I don't know if Dave's got any he can think of, but I'd
go for the obvious candidates. You're talking, how James Milner and Gareth Barry lasted. Just defeats me. It really does. And when we were linked with the pair of them, I was petrified.
Yeah, we really were. Yeah, we've probably signed a few as well over the years. It would be fair to say we've signed some players we thought would be
Andre Santos.
Yeah, Baptista probably would have to fit into that category.
Lord Bentner.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, Lord Bentner, for last week, whenever it was. You're great.
Gabriel.
That was me.
That was what?
We get the worst Brazilians. Our Brazilian scout needs to go away.
Oh, it was your birthday, wasn't it, David? Happy birthday. We forgot. Did you get a tweet from the podcast?
Probably not.
No, unless someone reminds me. But they forced us to. I was following too many people on the podcast. They made us change the password again.
That's okay. I'll do a Lacazette. I don't mind this time.
Just a quick FYI, Danny. It's mine on Friday. So
but is it really like happy birthday 5 for it's 12 times a year?
Genuinely, I will be 36 years young on Friday, and I've still got the hairline of a 50-year-old. It's fine. I'm dealing with it.
Remind me on the day, otherwise you will not get the official. And when's yours, Devon?
August 13th.
Oh,
you can save up for that one, Danny. You've got a while yet.
Well, mine is the 10th for the 10th, same as Tony Adams and Charlie George. There you go.
I share mine with David Ginola. So
yes, his most hated players. He put David Ginola. I always used to like him.
Yeah,
looking bastard.
I do accept checks, by the way. If anyone wants
to be leaving us in 10 minutes, so he's going to get every other question, and then us three can chat on for a while, and then Devon's got to leave a little while after that, and just be me and Chris talking about nonsense. Unless you got stuff to do, Chris.
I can probably give you 10-15 minutes if you like.
Socks. Right, one for Devon from Mikko, Mikko. He says, if we don't qualify for the Champions League next season and need more funds for the summer, which of our 2 strikers would you reluctantly sell to raise some cash? Obviously, we don't want to sell either, but they are probably our most valued assets. So we're selling the crown jewels, basically. Who do we get? It's got to that point.
I think Aubameyang's probably worth more.
Even though he's 8.
Really?
I think he'd have more suitors. Yes, because I think that Aubameyang could go to Juventus and wreck shop. And we've seen that they'll spend money to bring aging players over. I mean, everybody forgets Ramsey at the end of his contract is going to be 33 and the highest paid player on their club. So I think that a club like that, or, who knows where Lewandowski is? I could see, Aubameyang going back to Germany. I mean, one of those he's going to be able to play, barring a major injury like a Hector injury. He's going to be able to play his style for the next 3 to 4 seasons. So I just think he would have more suitors. I think somebody would buy Lacazette, but I think that you would have a bidding war for Aubameyang.
So there you go. Short, sweet, to the point. Right, another question for David from Noir Confidential. As usual, I've just followed him on Twitter. I didn't realise I wasn't. He is almost the number one question a person sending in we have. He says, many agree our club has communication issues. Since Arsenal already look to hire former players, would appointing a well-liked former player as a liaison between the club and the fans or press improve its relationship with said groups or general acceptance of its decisions? Oh, if I could stand up and applaud, I would, Noir. Another magnificent question. Well done, David.
It certainly is a good question, isn't it? And we were complaining a couple of weeks ago about how badly informed we are about what was going on with Sven Mislintat, for example. But having spent time there last week, you know what? When they have got you in amongst the place, they are not holding a great deal back. They're very warm towards people who are fortunate enough to visit. But that doesn't answer the question, does it? You're right. I think there is a need there for a greater degree of communication. Who that should be, whether it should be a former player or whether it ought to be someone with a little more public relations nous, maybe. That's the real question. I would plump for someone with a little more of the latter, I would think. But a great question. Thank you, Noah.
Would I be suitable for that position?
You wouldn't get out of bed on time.
Yeah, we need someone who's working during the day, Danny.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So
nighttime operator.
Question for Kris from Bobby Check your booty. He says, well, I'm stuck at work until at least 9:30. What player stuck at the club would you like to boot out the door immediately? Oh, Bobby. Brilliant.
What current Arsenal player?
Yeah. Boot it. Just gone now. Bye. See you later. Cancel the contract. Get out.
Oh, God.
Don't let the door hit you in the arse on the way out. All that.
Oh, I like them all.
Absolute stinker.
Ozil, for God's sake.
No,
the instant amount of money we can save.
No, I don't know. The tea lady. Just get the.
Oh, you're such a shit. Has anyone got a decent answer for that?
Well, I don't want to get. I like all of our players, Danny. You know
every single one of them.
Yes.
Go on, Devon. You sound ruthless. You sound like you know where the bodies are buried. Who would you kick out?
Granit Xhaka.
Now you can be quiet. Put yourself back on mute. How dare you, sir?
No. I said Granit Xhaka. I would send Granit Xhaka out. I don't know what he does for the money that he makes. I'm not a fan.
Foul people.
Kris, in your calmest voice, could you just say to John, it's okay.
Actually, no, fuck it, no. I've just thought of one. Aaron Ramsey. Just so everyone shut bloody up about it.
Right,
yes, I did that for a reason. It was deliberate.
Hold on.
I don't read him. I promise.
Hold on, Jason.
You boy, I am having you.
Jason, breathe. John, breathe. If you need to call Samaritans, just Google it. For God's sake, don't kill anyone, either of you.
At least if you put him out, get some money. I mean, that'll do, isn't it?
Right. Final question. We've got some more questions, but there's a question. David's final question. He's going to go after this because he's a busy man. Because he didn't get up at 5 o'clock like I did. His day's nearly done. For Mark Blondal, he says, "Can we actually look down at loan signings this window? We are short in every area of the pitch, and with possibly Ramsey and El Neni going this month, we will be woefully short. Sure, we can field a team, but we can't keep the formation nor the required level of performance anymore."
God, what a question that is.
Some good ones this week.
Just say I don't know. That's what I always do.
No, well, the issue with loan
was he
transfers.
Kicking a puppy? Was he kicking a puppy when he typed that question in? I'm just wondering. I mean, it's okay. The sun is shining. I mean,
you
go
hate
outside.
Xhaka. How dare you?
Turn off the Nirvana records and go outside. It's okay.
He's okay. He's a top man. He's just being a little bit mischievous at the moment. But listen, whether they're loans, even if we had money, signings in January are difficult at the best of times with what we currently have in situ. In other words, no recruitment guy. Raul Sunley is going to have to get this one over the line, or get however many there are, if there are any over the line. Loans, or it's getting hold of players that are available for the Europa League. It's getting hold of players who are available to step into the side, not to be cover. You want to be getting quality. Who's going to loan you quality players in January? The fees involved you're still going to have to pay £2-3 million to borrow players for 6 months. So I'm seeing precious little movement. I really am, in terms of inwards. Outwards, you mentioned specifically El Neni and Ramsey. I don't think we're of a mood to let Ramsey go now. Having seen him start against Chelsea, having seen what he's done of late, I think we're probably going to take the hit on him now in the summer and let him have the transfer fee. But if El Neni goes, Christ's sake, we've got a midfield that not even Mesut Ozil can get into at the moment. So, with the best in the world, I love El Neni as a player. Clearly, Unai Emery doesn't. So him going doesn't significantly weaken us.
There you go. What a wonderful way to end with 2 minutes to go, Dave. David's leaving now because Skype forced an update on my laptop and my PC, and I was busy scoffing down soup and coffee. So David he's got to be in bed by 9 o'clock. Dave, you've got a minute and a half to get your gym jams on and get in bed.
Oh, no. What have I done with them? They're here somewhere. Brilliant. Thank you
very much for joining us, David.
Sorry,
brilliant as always.
No worries. Take care. All
right, cheers, mate.
Dave.
Right, we should carry on. I think I just spoke over Dave, the whole of him saying goodbye there. Sorry, Dave. Next question is going to be to you, Devon,
Yes.
from Josh Robinson. Are you surprised, like me, that we haven't bought a central midfielder this January? Emery has only used Torreira, Xhaka and Guendouzi in there, and with reports, another person saying El Neni's going, and with reports of El Neni could be off, we're going to be desperately short of cover.
Okay, I'm gonna give everybody a term to go look up, and it will completely ease your angst. It's called STCC, short-term cost controls. We can't spend money to raise our wage bill without investment, without money coming in. This angst over not being able to buy players comes down to what ultimately equates to a Premier League salary cap. The whole reason we can only loan players is not because of Kroenke. It's not because of anything outside of this. I mean, yes, it is, but it comes down to STCC. It's short-term cost controls. We spent poorly. We gave huge money contracts and wages to players that 100% aren't worth the money that they're being paid. And if you look at other clubs, you can see how wage bills are skewed. Also, our Puma deal is small. Our Emirates deal and our Adidas deals coming in this summer are going to give us the opportunity to be a player in the summer transfer window. So am I that concerned about January? Yeah, it's terrible to have a 22-match unbeaten streak and have everybody freaked out about, a bump in the road and not being able to do what we all want. What all of us FIFA 19, super managers think that we can just, call up a guy and get a transfer completed, but I'm not stressing. I said from the very beginning, as hard as it is to be patient, you have to give Unai Emery 3 transfer windows, and 2 of those have to be summers, because we know that's when the deals get done. And yes, there's more competition, but there's also a little bit of certainty from the Premier League television money. And if you do qualify for a Champions League or even a Europa League, I mean, there's money in that as well. So I just think the fans need to take a deep breath. I know we need players. We all know we need players, but it's not worth hyperventilating over a situation of which we have very little control without making sales. The whole deal with selling El Neni to Leicester, I mean, he's a good squad player. He's well-liked. He runs his socks off. He's not the most technical, but Leicester sees the value in a player like that. So if you move him, you got to look at more as addition by subtraction, because you're taking £60,000 a week off the wage bill. El Neni makes more than Torreira. That's all you need to really know.
Okay, right. I'm going to leave this bit in the show, Kris. Let's see the people. Let the people at home see how we do it. On your Skype screen, Kris, is everybody in round circles as opposed to square circles? Is everybody in a circle in your top right-hand corner?
Yes.
Okay, bottom left-hand corner, it'll have a little plus sign saying a little chat window with a red dot. Can you click on that? Well, this is the level I'm dealing with, people.
There isn't a red dot at the bottom of mine.
There should be a thing saying open the chat box.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, yeah.
Right. Do you see where it says, Kris, can you see this?
If I scroll down, yep.
Okay, right. That's where I'm going to put the FIFEs forum in a minute, and you can read that out.
Okie dokie.
There you go, listeners. That's what I have to work with. If that had been Jason, we'd have been here for 2 hours with him going, I don't get it. What's going on? I don't know why he suddenly turned German. Right. Yeah, good answer. I like that, Devon. I keep going to call you Creamy Goodness because that's what you were, Devon Creamy Goodness on the Goonersphere. Did you two ever do Goonersphere together?
The Devonshire cream. I think we did once or twice. Yeah.
I think we do one? Yeah, I think we did. Yeah.
What if any pod should come back?
Daniel
it should be them.
Got into politics and couldn't do it with us anymore.
Yeah. Apparently they said they might do another one day. Oh, if only.
And James is making babies every 5 minutes now as well. So
he is, and I follow.
And big shout to James, the immaculate chef, and his lovely bride Courtney on there.
Indeed.
Yeah. So and Jock too. Jock's got babies too.
Yes, indeed.
They're not his. Stole them.
I wouldn't surprise me.
They're Iron Brew babies.
It's his 10th anniversary on Twitter this week. Mine's in March. Anyway,
I don't know when mine was.
Back to the questions. There you go, one for you, Chris, from Noir Confidential. He says, do you think the club has extended Monreal's contract only to sell him in the summer, or do they plan to keep him for his experience? Now, I didn't know he'd signed a new contract. When did this happen?
Yeah, recently. I don't know whether it's actually been announced by the club officially, but I think quite a few of the big name accounts have picked up on it. No, I think we probably have done the year plus one deal. So no, I think he'll still be part of the squad. It makes sense. Yeah. I mean, it's the same reason why I would actually keep Lichtsteiner for that second year. Just maybe not play him as much as we have. But yeah, I think it's a good idea to keep. To keep sort of cover in those fullback areas. And Nacho's one of the good guys, I think. I can probably imagine he'll want to retire, and much like Cos, I think he'll end up back in Spain for his final year. Might go and play alongside Santi. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Although I think, isn't he Basque? So I think he can go to Bilbao. Is he Basque? I may be wrong. Or if not, Athletic. Where was it? He came from Malaga, wasn't it? He signed from. So. Yeah, I think he'll stick around for the season, and for me, he's still our best left back. Even Kolasinac is good form, but he's still our best, most experienced left back. So hopefully he does.
Okie right. Just making sure everything's still recording because the new Skype people is an absolute pain in the testicles. I don't like it at all. Right, question for Devon from Nicholas Pierce. He says, "Oh no, actually, I'll give that one to Chris after." Oh God, the last two questions are both
you got
for
me all
Chris.
excited.
All right, you can have this one as you're the guest. From Nicholas Pierce, we've seen the first example of Henri Vieira. Do you hear that? That was Chris dying on the inside a little bit.
I watched it.
No, this question isn't for you, but you can chirp in at the end. It says, we've seen the first example of Henri Vieira match up in terms of coaching. Do you think either is, and he's putting quote marks, destined to be Arsenal's next manager one day, or is it likely that Freddie might take over in the future the way Pep matriculated? Now, I've Googled that, and it means being enrolled at college or university, so been matriculated at Barca. People don't use long words, you just slow me down.
Yeah, that's tough. It's if you're asking me, is it those two versus the field, I'll take the field. I think Thierry's in a bad situation. I think his heart took him to Monaco based off of his personal experience at the club. I think also the tax situation probably took him to Monaco.
That's why Tess went.
As we all know, it's nice to get tax-free money. But it's not a great situation. Rabablev is obviously not as rich as he was post-divorce. And, they're selling off their best assets. So Monaco was a tough place to go. OGC Nice has always been they've been kind of one of those clubs that could do something, but Vieira, for everything that he is as a coach and was here in MLS, I mean, NYCFC didn't really win anything. So I would need to see more from them. I'm not a big fan of ex-players returning as coaches in the Premier League because I can't really point out to too many, super success. I mean, yes, there's been some success, but I can't point to any long-term super successful programs that it's worked with. It's very different than Gattuso going back to AC Milan or Simeone at Atletico Madrid. I don't really see either one of them being a manager at Arsenal. I think their legacies are such that to come back and have a bad spell would be detrimental. I mean, could you imagine if Thierry came back and we had to sack him? You know, like could you imagine like just what that would do? I almost would deter him from doing it just off that alone, because chances for the success to repeat the success that he had as a player, as a manager at Arsenal in this league and this economic climate are tough, and the expectations are going to be astronomical just because of who Thierry Henry would be. So I would advise him against it.
Kris, your views on that? Because it would be child cruelty to let you answer something on your beloved feeder league, Farmers League.
Behave yourself, Daniel. Yeah, controversially, I guess it's controversial. I don't know. I'm not convinced that Thierry will make a particularly good manager. Certainly not Arsenal level. I think Vieira is and will be and continues to be, in fact. But I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. Don't get me wrong. You can't judge him on what he, what he's done at Monaco yet, because that side has been obviously systematically dismantled. There's been a numerous case of injuries this season. They've barely been able to play their first team squad. But I'm just not sure. And the biggest issue I think Thierry has is that he's not a guy who can keep his emotions to himself particularly well. I think he struggles to do that. He struggles to keep things in. He struggles to not react to things. There was an incident last week where he outwardly called Kenny Lala's grandmother a whore, for example, where Strasbourg dismantled them 5-1 at home.
That brings up a really big point. And I'm sorry to interrupt, but like here in the States, you have people like LeBron James who may be extremely knowledgeable and enigmatic on the court and can do everything. And because of that, other people can't play to their standard. And thus you get frustrated. I've always said great defenders make good managers. Great strikers make good pundits. That's pretty much where because if you're a striker, you see the game differently, and you have to have a mentality that is score at all costs. The great ones do. And it's very similar to, you know, what I would consider like a field goal kicker here. You may only get one or two opportunities, but both of those opportunities are going to be to win the game. So, you know, when it comes down to something like that, like a defender that has played back and has sacrificed personal glory for, like I said earlier, big team, little me, you know, somebody that's organized, somebody that's seen the pitch from a defensive mode. To me, like I said, Gattuso, Simeone, those defensive-minded managers that played defensive positions, Vieira to some extent with the defensive mid-roles, like I think that they end up being better managers because they're more tolerant of other players' failures. Whereas, like, I don't think Cristiano Ronaldo would ever be a good manager. I don't think he could tolerate anybody not being able to do things at his level.
Especially from prison.
Thierry's running into that.
Yeah, Thierry's running into that, and I think you need to be. I think you need to be a certain type of personality to be a manager as well. You know, Alan Shearer was loved at Newcastle. Couldn't manage to put his own trousers on straight in that job.
United.
Yeah, I mean, Solskjaer is obviously bucking the trend at the moment, but as we touched on earlier, I think there's a bit more to it than just him managing.
What he did with Cardiff,
Yeah. So no, I mean, as I say, I'm not slagging off Thierry. I'm not saying it won't work, but I just think that this idea that, you know, people are saying, oh, you know, Henry's he's a legend before we got Unai, and bring back Thierry's the perfect candidate. Based upon what? You know, I love Thierry Henry. He's a wonderful human being. He's very eloquent. He's obviously a club legend. But I just can't imagine him being an Arsenal manager at this stage, personally, and that's just how I see it. The same way I couldn't see Mikel Arteta being manager at a club of our size at this stage of his career. He's got a lot to prove, and you know, if he does that and he goes on, I think it'd be more likely to see like a Remy Gard manage Arsenal at this stage than you would Thierry. And unfortunately, the one thing that will follow Thierry around at the moment is his box office. You know, he is on adverts. He has been a pundit. He is outspoken. He is very famously Gallic in his ways. So, unfortunately, the spotlight will be on him. It's not like if Ole Gluzny got a job tomorrow, nobody would give a shit. Thierry Henry gets a job, everybody's interested. So, same with Frank Lampard at Derby. You know, it's a similar situation there.
Well, I'm gonna bring up an NBA reference one more time because I know you guys love the NBA London matches. But perfect example: Michael Jordan as a head coach, it didn't happen. Steve Kerr as a head coach, he's won 2 titles, or 3 titles now at this point. So again, it comes back to I think role players, defensive players, people that maybe had to work harder to get to that level because they weren't as naturally gifted or super fast, or you know what I mean, like or super technical. I think that the people that have worked harder for it have an easier time teaching it, and especially when you're trying to implement a style. Like if Thierry Henry's trying to implement a playing style, I just see his personality as being that person that would get frustrated if somebody doesn't jump right in or isn't completely bought in because I'm Thierry Henry. I have a statue. Listen,
and he already has. He already has. I mean, as I said, when he's on the bench at Monaco, there's been easily 4 or 5 times already. He had an absolute meltdown about a VAR decision at the weekend, which, albeit, did go in Strasbourg's favour and saw Ronaldo sent off after 7 minutes and they lost 5-1. But he went on an absolute torrent of abuse against VAR in the post-match press conference, and of course the "Your grandmother's a whore" quote. So in the Premier League, can you imagine the match of the day pundits getting stuck into that? I mean, you think Bielsa's causing a storm. The English media have only just worked out that Bielsa's an absolute shithouse. Everybody with any intelligence or a bit of knowledge of football could have told you that before he arrived here. But the English media, of course, they only report on the good old, jolly old Premier League, so they wouldn't know that. But
a bit mental at Marseille as well. Didn't he walk out on them?
He walked out he got chucked out of Lille. He walked out of Marseille.
Argentina.
Famously, he got the job at Lazio. Was it Lazio? And walked out before he even got. He walked out before a day in the role. He's batshit. So it's just one of those that Henry is not.
Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit.
Exactly.
Oh, is that where that comes from? That was the name of one of our pods recently.
It's Gattuso's famous. But no, I hope for Thierry's sake he has a very good managerial career. I really do. But I'm not sure that he'll ever be. I could see him back at Arsenal more as a coach in the future than as a manager, if managerial work doesn't go his way. But time will tell.
So to summarize for all the listeners, Chris's answer is sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit.
Exactly. And Vieira, I think, will make a very good manager, and he's doing a really good job at Nice, by the way. So, just for those interested.
Yeah. Richard Rawlings is live on with Joe Rogan at the moment. Richard Rawlings used to follow me back before he was overly famous.
Never heard of him.
Gas Monkey Garage. Oh, you're wasted. You don't like cars, do you?
No.
No, because you're a dodgy human being. How can a grown man not like cars? Right, next question is... here we go. This is the other one for you, Chris. It's from AH. Chris, if you were to sign... Get everyone go and put your feet up. If you were to sign 5 players in your favourite league, La Liga, in brackets joking, who would they be? In brackets, League One is what I really meant. Really? Okay, AH. We didn't realise that.
Is that Arian Hachani, or just?
No, it's just AH.
AH.
Do you want to go one for one, Chris? Do you want to go one for one? Like you pick one, I'll pick one.
Yeah, or I can give you a short list if you want, because I can make them all quick. That's no problem. Kelly Lala is the first one.
Lala.
Yep, just signed.
I like that.
He's attacking, flamboyant right back. We mentioned him earlier. Djibril Sidibe is another option. Linked with him last season, can play both fullback roles.
Did you say Djibril Cisse?
Djibril Sidibe.
No.
I thought you said Liverpool striker.
No, God, no. The Lord of the Manor of Frosham, no. So there's 2. Hassan Mawar at OM. Lana will not thank me for saying that. Easily one of the top 5 talents in Europe right now. Same with Tanguy Ndombele, who's another one at Lyon, also immensely gifted central midfielder. And then the 5th and final one, if I could have, obviously I'd have Kylian Mbappe, obviously, but if we're talking realistic, that's a little bit more tricky, actually, to be perfectly honest. Yeah, I like Christophe Julien. I'd probably go with Malang Sarr, just slightly in front. I have been converted to the Church of Nicolas Pepe, by the way. He's been outstanding for Lille this season. I wasn't convinced that he could do it at the top level, but he's proven me wrong week after week. But I think Malang Sarr, the young centre back at Rennes, would be another one I'd have a look at. But as the slogan goes in Liga, it's the Liga Conforama League of Talents. There's a reason for that. So there's plenty you can have there.
Do you want to pick a few, Devon, and then Kris can poo-poo you all the way through?
Sure. And he kind of got me with Nico Pepe and Jibril Sidibe. Obviously, I've mentioned both of them before, but I was kind of thinking, some other leagues as well. I mean, from Bundesliga, I would love to get Jonathan Tah.
Yeah.
Either of the Bender brothers.
Love a good Bender.
Yeah. If we're going to talk about, some people that I think are actually a little bit more realistic targets, we've been linked with him for years. Why not William Carvalho, who's kind of resurrected himself at Real Betis, as well as Sanabria, who's still at Betis. I mean, there's a lot of names out there that I think, are kind of undervalued that we could go in and, flex some muscle and drop some cash on the table and get it. Betis is not going to turn down 30 million for a player. I definitely think that there are players to be had, and I know it's a crazy name considering he's been linked with Barcelona, but, ex-Arsenal boy Carlos Vela seems to want to come back to Europe. So
yeah, that would be an interesting one. And you say that Betis wouldn't turn down 30 million for a player, and of course we wouldn't offer 30 million for a player, so that still works out quite well, really.
It would totally work out. I mean, negotiations would be quick and easy.
Yeah.
Hey, are you spending? No. You spending? No. Cool. All right. Well, I'm gonna go enjoy the beach.
I'll tell you one other name that's just come to mind. There's the obvious Nabil Fekir, of course, I left out because I
that'd have been my one and only choice.
Yeah, wonderful.
That's the only one I know.
There is one I've left off the list, which ironically plays for Patrick Vieira. Alain Saint-Maximin is a player who's starting to get the respect he probably deserves. He's a young wide player, young French wide player, plays for
what's his name?
for Nice. Alain Saint-Maximin.
I think you find that's a ski resort in Switzerland. I think you've got
exactly. And
Sorry,
I have two premier players that I would love to bring up in Wilfred Ndidi.
Yeah.
And Abdoulaye Doucouré.
And of course, you have to say Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who
I was going to say that.
According to everybody who's watched 2 Palace games, he's the second coming of Cafu. So, yeah.
I'm not even sure what position he plays in yet. He plays all over the place.
He's a right.
And everybody's talking about Wan-Bissaka too. What are your thoughts on that guy?
He's the one. He's the one I just mentioned. I think he's got a little bit of Ashley Cole about him, which probably suggests that we should probably steer well away from 30 grand a week. No, I think I'd like to see him over a course of a few more games at a higher profile club first. Personally,
okay.
He's raw. He's got all the attributes, but I don't want to be disrespectful to Palace, but at the same time, I'm going to be disrespectful to Palace. You can shine when you're at smaller club and you have a few good games as a youngster, but you've got to be a higher level to be. Alexander Arnold, for example, is one who's stepping up. Joe Gomez is stepping up. They're playing at the very top level consistently for Liverpool. Whereas for Palace, I think you need a bigger test before you can be classed as world class.
Well, we're talking right
now. Here's a question.
Oh, go on.
Oh, we're going to do right. I was going to say, for England, would Arsenal be smart to put in a bid at Leicester for Maguire?
No, not for me. I think he's really limited. I think for England, he's try really hard not to go on it.
What if he plays for France, Kris?
I still don't think he's, because trust me, there's plenty of donkeys who play for France at centre half. No, I don't think Maguire's of that level. I really don't. Chilwell, I do. I think he would be one that we wouldn't get him now. I think the boat sailed on the price for that one. But no, I think Chilwell would be a very good option. But no, not for me. Not Maguire for me. No.
And I'm just looking at the fantasy football, the Premier League one, and Wan-Bissaka is the 15th best player, and Van Aanholt is ahead of him. And I was going to ask about Serge Aurier. What's his future at Spurs? He's not playing, is he?
He's batshit crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I'm actually surprised he's not playing at the moment because Kieran Trippier is dog shit. But yeah, he's a classic Inter Milan signing in 3 years. He's like Who can we get? Oh, he'll do. The bloke from Spurs who used to play the Premier League and he's quite good. And yeah.
Now, I'll throw a young name at you. And you guys have probably seen him being in London. What about Ryan Sessegnon?
Yeah, I worry a bit about what's happened this season.
First, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's a left midfielder, isn't he? It's a hard one because to me, it's like this season. I wouldn't say he's been found out because Fulham have been awful and he's been exposed. It's not his fault. But again, Arsenal, I think, is a bit of a step. He sort of looks to me like if he was going to go, he'd be more kind of Everton type of level.
He does need another step-up club before he reaches a top club. But
yeah.
I watched him quite a few times playing for Fulham in the Championship when they just went, no, don't bother defending, let's just all attack. So he played left back, left wing, left forward. He played everywhere. But in the Premier League this season, when he had, is it Jukanovic?
Yeah.
Was he the manager when everybody looked, even Chambers looked terrible, but now they've got Ranieri there. He has looked a lot better, but I don't think he's been playing him at left back, has he? I think he's been telling him to get a bit more forward, and I think he might have scored his first goal this weekend or the weekend before.
I think.
And he's one of those players. He's one of those players that I could see going to Ligue 1, and shining. That's the guy that goes to a Marseille.
He's English, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yes, maybe Germany then, because that seems to be the trend at the moment. Young players going to Germany.
Yeah,
I just see him being able to flourish.
And that's the other thing. We got Reece Nelson to come back. We've already got Alex Iwobi. We've got Ainsley Maitland-Niles. I'm not sure it's an area we particularly need to strengthen. And with the English premium, you're going to pay through the roof for him. So I'm not sure. As I say, I'm not disputing he's got a huge amount of talent. Danny, Ross is very high on Ryan Sessegnon. I think he's very, very talented. But I'd just like to see him get another step forward and see how he progressed.
He needs to play with a mid-table team before a big team come in for him. But then, do you want to take the gamble? Yeah. Maybe do that. Yeah. Go. You probably get him for English premium, and it's Arsenal. You ain't going to get him for less than 30-40 million, are you?
I mean, he'll probably end up at Man City and cleaning David Silva's boots for 6 months.
Or on loan in Belgium.
Yeah, despite being told by Guardiola that he's the next coming of Jesus.
How long more have we got for, Devon?
I'm good for about another 10-15 minutes.
Okay, right, go on, Kris, and then we'll go on to your listeners.
No, I'm done. I've got a rant which I'll save for later on when we're doing the wrap up. So that's all good.
Yeah, hit me with one more question, and I'll sign off gracefully.
I was going to do the five. Oh no, yeah, we don't need you for the 5-star bit. We've had a few more questions coming in from our wonderful listeners. Christian and Andreasen and Andreessen, Berguna. He says, this is for you, Devon. Maybe loan Suarez. Other than that, no. Oh, that's he hasn't put hashtag ABWA. Right. One of your fellow countrymen, Ryan Ryan.
Yes.
Gunachai. He says, here to beat a dead horse. Would Emery be freezing out Ozil, or however it can be described, if Ivan Gazidis was still around? And we will definitely sign Hatim Trablisi. Bellerin's injury is the impetus to get the deal over the line finally. So one of your countrymen, I think he's a fellow Ozil fan. Would Ivan put up with it?
I mean, do I think that it's, if my aunt had a Willie, she'd be my uncle. It's a nice hypothetical, but I'm glad Gazidis is gone. I think some of the stuff he did was criminal. Do I think that we would be in a standoff? Probably not. I'm sure that there's a lot of people at the club that are wondering how you pay somebody £350,000 a week to not play. I mean, it's a very, very odd situation. And if it's true that we want to subsidize some of his wages to ship him out, it's just not a good situation. I've never seen a situation, or maybe I struggle to say never, but I can't recall a situation where a player has been so, professing his love for the club and wanting to be here well after his contract. And I don't know if that's agent speak, but, Mesut has done nothing to in my and everybody knows I'm an Ozil defender, but I don't think Mesut's done anything to warrant the mass criticism that he's got. I mean, yeah, he's the highest profile player at the club, so he has the brightest spotlight, but I think that he gets a lot of undue criticism. And I also reckon back to Emery's situation with Neymar at PSG. It's like, is this a freeze out, or is this just a manager trying to, put his stamp on a new club? We talked about this when Wenger left. This was always going to be a transition period. This was always going to be tough. And, there's always going to be holdovers from the previous regime, including players that are tied into Wenger's practice style. I know we lost Dave, but, like he said, the practices are probably pretty different, just in terms of intensity. And I'm sure they've run more in practice than they have in the past decade, So I think a lot of it has to do with buying in. But, I hope that Emery can get the best out of Mesut. I do think it's a drag on our wage bill if he's not going to play, obviously, because, you're talking about, almost £1.5 million a month on a player that should be your number 10. So do I see it as a freeze out? Somewhat, but I'm a positive person. So I think I see a light at the end of the tunnel. And I hope that light is the light bulb in Mesut's head clicking on, that he's either going to play or he's going to be a passenger and collect a check for the next 4 years.
Superb
Sorry,
answer.
That was a long-winded answer.
No, what a wonderful way to before you pop off and before you go. Would you like to? What is your role at Atlanta United Fan TV? Because I've seen you've been going there for about 18 months. You're getting really good numbers on there. You had just over 3,000 subscribers. I've watched a few of your videos on there, only to see your ugly mug.
Yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate it. We're growing the channel. Atlanta United Fan TV. We're doing everything that we possibly can to provide the best, fan-driven UGC content. And it's growing. Like I said, we were there to cover PT Martinez. We're there to cover all the things. We do big podcasts every week. I'm one of the principals. There's like 4 of us that do the undertaking. My man Alan AJ Hugh does all the shooting and the editing, and we do a lot of the filming at his house. But we got some great stuff coming from that. And check us out. Atlanta United Fan TV on YouTube, and ATL UTD Fan TV on Twitter.
I'm impressed with the number of videos you've knocked out. Almost 400 uploads in 18 months, where we've done about nearly 600 in 5.5 years. So you're definitely on course to do something pretty good there. And even if you're not an Atlanta fan, and even if your team was robbed in the MLS Cup final by them, it's still worth having.
Robbed?
You mean battered? You mean battered, Danny?
Battered.
Oh dear. Anyway, Devon, thank you very much. Chris, you want to say something?
Thank you,
I was just going to say before Devon goes as well, he is at long last finally going to be the proud owner of one of only 2 Pirates black shirts in
I'm so excited. I am so excited. I'll be wearing it and sending you guys photos.
It's in the mail. I must message you the tracking details, but I hope it'll be with you in the next. I don't know what American Post is like, but they said roughly a week. So
it's a man on a horse.
We're in a government shutdown, so we'll see.
Okay. Well, it's been tracked.
But I can't thank you enough, man. I like I said, I know it took some time, but that's what happens when you get quality craftsmanship, and I appreciate it. And I'm glad to have supported the Barbican Pirates, man.
A pleasure.
With that beautiful logo on the front. So I appreciate you guys. And like I said, if you don't mind, check out Atlanta United Fan TV. We're going to be doing some great stuff.
Lovely. We should retweet it from the pod, and we'll have you back on again soon, because many of ABW have gone down with non-poditis, which means they can't be bothered anymore. Bless them. So thank you very much, Devon. As always, brilliant. Cheers, mate.
Take it easy, Devon.
Right, now we are going to go, and I'm just going to cut this and copy it and paste it into the chat box. And I've proofread none of it, so good luck. It's Fife. Here we go, people. It's time for Fife's Forum, the forum that Fife has never hear and never does, and probably never will do, because he's too busy being Fife.
Being the Wolf of Wall Street.
Drinking wine
I never know whether
around the world.
I never know whether he's on holiday or at work. I can never track it down.
Him. If it's a couple of bottles of wine, usually more. His wine costs more than you earn in a week.
Yep.
Glugging it down like there's no tomorrow. That boy is living the life of a dream.
Bless him, though. Bless him,
yes.
though. Good luck to the man. Okay, so this week's First Forum was: do you think we'll actually sign anyone this transfer window? And if not, why? Now, before I read out the responses, this seems like a perfect opportunity for me to have my little mini rant, doesn't it, Danny?
You do it. I'm going to sit here and wish I had. Oh, I do have a drink to hand. I've got some Lacazette Zero. So go.
It's actually not that big a rant, but it's just a little thing that irks me slightly. And even the Lord in Chief Andrew, Mr. Arsblog, wound me up a bit this week. I saw, which is very rare, I saw the thing about Petr Cech retiring, obviously. Good luck to Petr. I hope his retirement goes well. What a servant, by the way. But the very first thing that happens when a player says they're going to leave or we sell a player is everyone and their monkey's uncle jumps on Twitter. Oh, well, we've got to sign this player. We've got to sign that player. We've got to spend this money. Why? When did this happen? I know everyone gets excited by the yellow bar on Sky, and I've been involved in a few tweets. And yes, Chase, Lamar is indeed close. Over the years, talking about transfers, I know I've talked to Dom at length about this. It sells papers. Our new reporter on the ground, Mr. Collins, congratulations, by the way. He reports on these things, and it sells papers. It gets clicks, it gets hits. I get that. But sometimes it would just be really nice if we just sort of stopped fretting about these things we can't control, called transfers and boardroom and money. And it's not always spending money. It's not always the way around it. Petr Cech is moving on. Martinez might well move on. Ospina might move on. Why don't we look at some of the players we've got coming through the ranks? Wouldn't it be really nice if we could have a team in 3 to 4 years that has Maitland-Niles, Reece Nelson, Zach Medley? Why can't we do that? We all sit here and bang our drums and laugh at the likes of Chelsea, who have only had John Terry through their youth academy in the last 473 years or 12 years of their history. That's very easy. And we all mock Spurs, me, no more than me, trust me. But they've taken a punt on that diving twat who's busted his hamstring from MK Dons. Why can't we go out and maybe give that a go? So it's just sort of a mini rant. But sometimes, just sometimes, transfers are not the be all and end all. And granted, we're a bit short on numbers at the moment, but maybe get behind some of the young players, go to a couple of the youth games, watch some of the youth games, and let's give some of these guys a go. And if for whatever reason we are forced to play some of these academy lads, rather than focusing on how many Eddie and Nketiah missed at Blackpool, why not get behind the guy and give Emery a pass and say, do you know what? If you play a couple of these younger players, we'll stand by them. So I don't know if you've got a view on that, Danny, before I read the Vice Forum responses, but.
Yeah, I have. It builds team unity. If you have, like I say, these people are my own people. Yeah, I mean, I know Wobie isn't from
people.
England. Yeah, but we're all Gooners and we're all London. I know Wobie was born in Nigeria, but he's come through the youth ranks at Arsenal. He's still probably a London boy, supports Arsenal. That whole group reminds me so much of the early days of George Graham, where I'm not going to list them all, people know who they are, but that group of people who grew up together, played together, rather than having mercenaries come in on 350 grand a week and do fuck all for a living. The Ozil listeners. Oh, they hate me for that. No, there's nothing I'd like to see more than Ozil come back and run every single game and be the best player in the Premier League, like he's more than capable of. But that's never going to happen. But having all these young players come through, and they've come from. If you've been listening to the pod regularly, you'll have heard of the youth roundups and stuff like that. You'll have heard me talking about these as the under 18s, the under 21s, which is now the under 20s, working their way through, making it through to the first team. Talking about Maitland-Niles when he was out on loan at Ipswich and some of the other loans that were a bit shit, and all these people there, and they're all coming. So when they do get to play in the first team, they're playing with people they know, people that are their friends, their mates, their buddies, and that can only help the club. And you look when Reece Nelson comes back next season, if we were to buy him, if he was a Hoffenheim player and we wanted to have him at Arsenal next season, we'd be looking at 30-40 million quid. Because he's English and we're an English club.
Sellable assets, exactly that.
You've got to remember that, like you were saying, you've got to give Nketiah time. Normally, the route is under 18, under 23, then playing a few League Cup games, then maybe playing a few FA Cup games, and then the next season as a sub for Arsenal, then maybe getting a few. No, he hasn't done that. He's gone straight from the under 18s straight through to the to our bench and playing games. because we had no Welbeck there. So he has missed out a massive chunk of that and a massive chunk of going out on loan. And going out on loan maketh the man, as no one has ever said. So you have to remember all these things. These kids are, and I've moaned year after year that our loan system is absolutely horrendous. You need to put me in charge of the loans. Sir, if you want our player as a championship team, you can have him. But number one, he plays every single week. Number two, you play him in the correct position every single week. And if you have a change of manager, you promise to make him play in those positions, or he comes back to the club. And if you don't do that, he comes back to the club, because there is no way you are having any of our players. And I don't want people to go and play in League One, like I think Bilic is doing at the moment, playing at Charlton and doing quite well. We've had players go on loan to non-league clubs, like Matt Macy went on loan to, I think it was Luton in the conference.
He's at Plymouth.
Yeah, he is now, yeah, but he was playing for Luton when they got to the conference playoffs to get promoted. And then we had the young right back who was at Bristol Rovers, and so many of our players. You'd think, hold on, we're a club, we can get a young Arsenal player. Well, you've learnt your trade at Arsenal, and now you're playing at a conference or a League Two side. That stops. That's not happening anymore, because when you want to get ready to be an Arsenal player, you need to be playing top Championship or bottom half of the Premier League as your loan, or playing abroad at a decent club. Look at the number. We were loaning players out to the Dutch second division. Even the Dutch players don't want to play in the Dutch second division, for God's sake.
Dan Crowley, isn't it?
So yeah, super Dan Crowley, who's now playing, I don't know where, he's back in Holland. John Terrell, who's at Hull, and he was injured for a while. He's now back on the bench. He's scoring. I think he scored a goal and an assist in the last month or so. So these players are trying to rebuild their career after having a horrendous time at Arsenal due to some moron going, "You want him? Here, have him. Just let us give him back, give him a wash, and give him back in May." No, I don't want anything like that.
And don't forget, we're all the biggest topic of conversation at the moment is Arsenal's defence. Who would have thought, if we'd have said at the start of the season, do you know what, it's really going to cost us a big slip in mid-season when Rob Holding gets injured? Where did we get Rob Holding? Bolton Wanderers for £2 million. Arsene Wenger famously said it, wasn't it? He said that because Rob Holding is £2 million, he isn't a very good player, according to you. And he's right. Holding is, I'm not saying he's Maldini, but he was probably, along with Socrates, our best defender in this run of the team this season when he got his chance. And he got his chance because Emre put faith in him and gave him that opportunity. And next season, you may well see Reece Nelson. I think Smith Rowe is clearly a guy who's being fast-tracked in terms of ability. George Bird has been saying that Zelalem has been really impressive since he
scored a goal
injury
a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's going to be the new Vieira or anything like it, but again, these are the players that if you can bring these players through the right way, you might just find that somebody decides to pay you 15, 16 million. And granted, that's not just the manager and the players. You've also got to get your boardroom in operation so that we don't see Wojciech Szczesny get sold for 10 million quid to Juventus and then go on to take over from Buffon. That cannot happen. And let's not forget, he was on loan at Brentford before he got his chance in the Arsenal first team. So we've got to improve as a club in the backroom area to make sure that these assets are actually sellable. But I would really like to see the day where we could say, as I said, there are a lot of names. Medley is another one, and like you said, Christian Bielik. Pray for Bielik's balls. If you haven't seen that, look it up. But yeah, there are some sellable assets.
By a fan, ridiculous.
There are some potentially saleable assets. If not, there are assets that could maybe be the future of Arsenal and maybe get games in the future. So let's put some faith in them before immediately going, we've got to go to the transfer market, because you and I both know, Danny, we're not competing with the players that Man City, Chelsea, Man United are in the market for. We're not. We are competing with the likes of Everton, West Ham. Spurs don't buy
all those
players.
teams spent more than us in the summer.
Yeah. Exactly.
You look at the fact that at the end of last season, we knew Saka was retiring. We knew that Mustafi isn't the greatest player in the world, and we've let Chambers go out on loan. And what have we done? We brought in one bloke, Socrates, who, as a Dortmund fan, Dortmund had a dog shit last season, and the season before they were rubbish, and he looked like an average player at best. Although if you've seen him the season before that, he's a decent player. You're not going to fuck with him. So we had one retiring, one going out, and we brought one in. What kind of management is that? Meanwhile, we go and get midfielders and stuff like that. And you go and get a new goalkeeper and things like that. If you've got limited funds, we didn't really need Bernd Leno. We could have gone another season without him because he's not been a magnificent keeper. Cech could have done that job. Martinez would have been a more than decent backup. Having Dave the Bins there, we could have kept him and had him as a backup. So it's spending the wrong money in the wrong places. It makes me wonder. Maybe they go out and go, we want these 6 players. And they go, okay, we're going to try and rebuild part of the team. Oh, what, the only one we can have is a goalkeeper? Oh, all right, then we'll just have that then. It just makes you wonder who's doing it.
Arsenal are the do you remember, you like the first show, don't you, Donny?
Oh,
do
yes.
Do you remember the sketch? Do you remember the sketch on the first show where
in the pub, in the bar?
No. I was going to say that the guy, I can't remember which character plays him, but basically there's this premise of there's like a husband and wife, and she goes, "Did you get the cheese?" And he comes and he goes, "Better than that. I got a transistor radio. I got some Rivita. I bought a used microwave
and a bike pump."
And a bike pump. And she looks at him. She's like, "But you didn't get the cheese." And that is Arsenal in the transfer market. I could not think of a better analogy. And if you can find the YouTube clip of that, you'll have to post that up. But it is. What do we need? Centre back. I know. We'll buy a central attacking midfielder. That is.
Can we fit any more central midfielders in there? We need loads.
Yeah,
and it's just. I mean, you said Guendouzi would be in the first team by Christmas, and you were right. But even in your wildest expectations, you wouldn't have thought he'd have been played more than almost any other player at the club this season, would you?
No, I said he would potentially have a chance of making the first team. I didn't think he'd have started as many games as he has. No way.
The most number of games started in the Premier League, I mean, in all season, in all competitions. Torreira, 29. Matt Guendouzi, 28. Lacazette, 28. Nuts. There you go.
And we look a better team for me when Guendouzi's in the midfield. And I'm not slating Xhaka because, for the record, I actually think we look a better side when we've got all 3 of them together.
Yeah, definitely all 3. Because you don't know what Guendouzi's going to do. Because if you stopped him, if you had the ability to read his mind, it's probably just spaghetti hoops in there, all shaking around, not knowing what the hell he's going to do next. And that was why it's so hard to go and mark him. Question for you: was he? Everyone says, "Oh, he's come from the French second division." Well, he did, but before that, Lorient were in the French first division. He played part of the season with them. Before that, he was at PSG. Was he? Yeah. Did Emery know him at PSG? Were they both there at the same time?
I don't think they were there at the same time. I think the crossover came, but when he came into PSG's academy, he would have been fully aware of who went out, who went in, because PSG are very, for all the criticism they get, and some of it rightly so, they've got a very, very good academy at PSG. I watched their youth team play Liverpool a few weeks back when the Champions League was still on, the FA, or the Youth Champions League as it is. They've got some exceptionally talented youngsters, and he would have been fully aware who went out and who went in. And when we didn't get Yassine Adli, who, by the way, penny for his thoughts, having signed a new contract with PSG and promised he'd get in the first team squad, hasn't even made the bench this season more than twice. So that's not worked out well. They sold him the dream, and now he's not playing. But and Soki's another one that they've got coming through. He would have known who was shipped out. I'd have to check the stats. I'm pretty sure that he had gone before Emre come in, but he would have been fully aware of him. And don't forget as well, PSG, they're a little bit like Chelsea in that they might sell a player on, but if they decide he's quite good, they'll quite happily buy him back. It's not an issue. So I wouldn't be surprised if they'd have had their eyes on in their scouting team. Oh, this is a guy who's in our academy. Shall we have another look at him? And the thing I really like about Guendouzi, to sort of surmise, is I can't remember who tweeted this. Apologies, I can't give him credit. It might have been Dave Sager maybe, or someone of that ilk. They're saying the thing they like about him is he's like a fan with talent. When you see him on the pitch, he looks like he's genuinely enjoying every single game, and he acts like he's an Islington boy. He looks like he'd run through brick walls for Arsenal. He looks like a player who's been there his whole life. Whereas obviously he's not, and he's been really adopted into the Arsenal fabric, and not only that, he's got the talent to back it up. He's not like, love him, but he's not like Jenkinson, who's just sort of there doing a job as a fan, if you will, with a limited talent. He's got bags of talent. So yeah, I mean, I'm all for it, but I just think that maybe we just undervalue what's already in the club before we sort of start looking at who we should buy, which kind of brings us back to the question, doesn't it, really? So we should probably answer the question.
I just looked up on Wiki. Guendouzi went to your team, Lorient, when he was 15 in 2014, so it had been just before
Emery arrived. Yeah. So
Still would have been aware of him though.
Yeah. And,
so why did I take it he left because for first team football?
Yeah.
Or better chance.
Yeah, he was one of the ones that sort of.
How do they see him in France? Because he's played for under 18, under 19, under 20, and under 21.
He's very highly rated. I think he's one of the ones that the problem with the French team is that if you look at the team that won the World Cup, they could easily make another 2 11s of players that don't make the French team already. There's tons of them. Tauvin's one of the best players in Ligue 1, can't get near the French starting 11. Thomas Lemar's another one. So, yeah, I think when you've got a midfield to get into that includes Pogba, Tolisso, Kante, Fekir, to name but 4, it's just not easy as a young French player. But no, I think in time he'll break through. And Ndombele is obviously the other one that I mentioned earlier. Aouar, the other one. But no, he's thought of very highly, and the press that he gets in France is very good. And it sounds trivial, but he's noticed the hair and everything else that goes with it. He's the sort of player that you will notice. Yeah, and a good target for good publicity. So no, I hope he has the career that most of us think he will have. So yes, so there you go. Christ, that was a rant, wasn't it? But anyway,
love it.
Let's go on to. They can always skip this if they don't want to hear us ramble on anyway. But so just a reminder then. So the 5-4 question: do we think we'll actually sign anyone this transfer window? And if not, why? So let's have a look at the responses. Carl Palmer says we'll make one loan signing. ITKs will say it's Lamar. I see what you've done there, Carl. Haters will doubt them. So yeah, thank you for that, Lamar. Nicky Wilson. God bless him, there he is again. Doubt we'll sign anyone unless we can get rid of a few players. We're up to our maximum wage increase allowed by FFP. Our very own Mr. Josh Dorr is across the whole English quota thing, by the way. Tap him up if you want to know a bit more about that. Ian Wright said, and apologised on his YouTube channel for criticising the club's lack of spending because he didn't know about the wage rules. So that's a fair point.
I actually unfollowed Ian Wright's YouTube channel because it's shit.
Is it?
Yeah, it is. And his Instagram, shit. Still follow him on Twitter, but it is shit because it is aimed at the 3 or 4 minute long people who have got the attention span of a worm. And I like long form. I mean, if it was up to me, these podcasts would be 3 or 4 hours long each. I'd go full Joe Rogan on their asses. 4 minutes, no, not interested.
I love Righty, but some of the stuff he comes out with, I do go. Huh?
Because he can't be completely biased, otherwise he wouldn't get a job at the BBC, would he?
Yeah,
he can't be. Unless he was a Liverpool fan, then you'd be allowed.
And all those people that lost their shit when he praised Spurs, I mean, don't get me wrong, I fucking hate them and I'll slag them off to the cows come home, but I don't cover them for a job. It's his job, people. Alan Shearer might have to give Sunderland credit one day. That's just their job. I think the bit that makes people annoyed is that we pick up on the anti-Arsenal in the media, and then we don't realise that when one of our own does it, we can't kind of accept it. So it's a little bit pot kettle black there, but still. Noah Confidential chimes in as well. He said, yes, we will, but not someone who could significantly improve how we perform. I think that's probably another very valid point, as always. Bobby Chakraborty, I think we will sign that Suarez from Barcelona. Maybe not now.
Not anymore.
That will be all. Also, can we get Jenkinson out of the Gunnosaurus costume? Quality. And some bloke called John Welsh. He says, I'm still trying to unzip this horrible leather catsuit. Can you? Oh, sorry, that's the wrong message. He says, I think we'll get Suarez on loan. Disappointing. So my question, will his arrival mean Money Mesut gets bumped further down the pecking order? John, I see what you're doing there, and I'm not going to entertain it, you shithouse.
Wet room specialist, if anybody needs any conversions done for your bathroom. I think that's what it means.
I think that is what it means, yeah.
Oh, no. Have you seen what Ronaldo's done?
Which one?
Spotty, goofy twat. I want you to talk about this Emiliano Sala a little bit. But on the day that my mate Lee, Dirty Spud, he said, I love Ronaldo. This is at Smithy1983, really good mate of mine, Spurs season ticket holder. But I love Ronaldo. But on a day where he was in court in tax fraud charges and fined 17 million, and more importantly, this is a tweet that Ronaldo put up today, and more importantly, a football goes missing on a plane and his way to his new club, and Ronaldo does this, taking a photo of himself in a private jet, and just tweeted it today. If you've been fined 17 million on tax fraud charges, and then that Salah thing has happened,
you'd lie a bit low, wouldn't you, for a few days maybe?
Don't do selfies of yourself. It's not even a proper selfie because it's a picture of him holding his camera and someone's taking a picture of him holding a camera. So that's not even a selfie, is it?
And it's not Ronaldo's not. I mean, it's all PR and ego, isn't it? I mean, yeah, not ideal, that is it. But footballers will be footballers, I suppose.
Monaco just lost another game. They lost 3-1 at home to Metz.
That's in the
Cup
de la Ligue, isn't it? Yes, I believe so. Yeah,
Lana's just tweeted it. She knows.
Poor
Another
Rotler.
incoming humiliation for Henri.
Jez Smith will be happy though. He's a Mets fan. Yeah, we should just touch on the Salah situation.
Boys back in 2015. He only 5 goals in 13 games, but hell of a season, hasn't he?
Absolutely, he's been brilliant for Nantes, and for anyone who's living under a rock, we don't know the situation at the moment, but let's just say it doesn't look good. In that there was a private jet that was taking him from France to England to start his, or to Wales actually, to start his career with Cardiff. He signed him a week or so ago. The plane, there was actually a really haunting tweet that went out. The Get French Football News guys tweeted this, that apparently he was concerned about the weather conditions and the plane's suitability before they took off. Apparently it tried to make 3 different attempts to take off and didn't, and then it went up on the 4th one.
After the first. In fact, I wouldn't even have got on that bloody plane. I hate planes.
I'm not a big fan of flying, I must admit, and I'm reliably informed it's the most safest mode of transport, blah, 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 but I panic from the minute it's up. I don't mind the taking off and the landing, which apparently is the most risk. I just don't like the bit when you're in the air.
You can swim. If something happens to a boat, you can swim. You can't fly.
No. So all we can say is we're praying for a miracle at this stage. I think the Coast Guard have called off the search overnight. I think there's the Guernsey Coast Guard and there's French authorities.
Radio 5 today, because Guernsey is where all my family are from, and they had the Guernsey Coast Guard on saying we were out at first light and we couldn't see anything, and unless there was no emergency beacon sent out either. And he said there's debris on the ocean, but it doesn't look on the sea. It doesn't seem to be any part of that plane. No. And we were out last night. We've had to come back in because it's dark. He said we can't see anything. Unless they got flares, we're not going to find them. And he said plus the night that it happened, it was really rough seas.
Yeah, it's just a horrific thing to think about, really, isn't it?
Apparently, there was Julian Laurent, I think it was, on Radio 5 tonight, saying what a lovely bloke he is, and how he's worked his arse off to get where he is in football, and then all the fans at Nantes were all cheering him, and even in the background, I could hear him singing.
And the ironic thing is, he wasn't even that sold on the idea of going to Cardiff. He's been really, really happy at Nantes, and he's been really performing well, but they looked at it and thought, money-wise, it's too good for us to turn down. So, yeah, I mean, and I think it was just himself and the pilot were the only 2 occupants. So, I mean, maybe miracles do happen. You look at the Chapecoense survivors to see that, things can happen. People can survive the most horrific things, but it doesn't look great, is what we would say. And,
especially the water being that cold. Yeah,
and in the modern world where you can pretty much track somebody farting before they've even put the trousers down, it doesn't look good that it's dropped off a radar. So, yeah, just thoughts with everybody and connected to him and his family, really. I know they obviously won't be listening, but I think we'd all agree with that sometimes it's a bit bigger than just a game of football, isn't it? It's a life at stake. So, yeah, truly awful. But, hey, not where we want to leave the pod, I suppose. But
I still got some more of these answers to read out, haven't you?
They're the only ones I've got, I think.
You got down. Oh, there's another one on Twitter from another reply from Christian Anderson, Andreasen. He says maybe loan Suarez. Other than that, no. Nice looking shirt. So I think that was in reply to Mr. Holick wearing. Oh, no, I put up a picture of the. It looks like it's a white Adidas Arsenal shirt where it looks like GB kind of stuff on the sleeves. How true is that? I don't know. By FFX.
It's been confirmed that the bruised banana is returning. We've seen that, haven't we? The Adidas could decide.
I've not seen it. I was talking to OG and Dom in the fannies last night, and I said, they never listen to the fans, and they went, well, the shirts, and they told me what shirts are up there. I've not seen them.
Yeah, but basically Adidas have said that they've sort of made a loose sort of leak to those in the know, including footy headlines that are quite well connected in these things, that they are going to pay homage, I believe the kids say, to the bruised banana. I must admit, I'm actually not one of those people that thinks it's the most amazing kit in the world. I don't get it wrong, it's a classic because of the different element to it, but I wasn't a huge fan of it. But yeah, I mean, anything's better than some of the stuff Puma have given us, so that will be different. the home shirt standard red and white, and apparently now we've had it confirmed that the third shirt will be blue. So I think they're playing it fairly safe. So yeah, we might have
How long will it be before the Arsenal fans go, oh, this is shit, they're doing us over, it's rubbish, I hate it?
We've been named as I think it's the 5th top tier Adidas side, along with who's it? Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, Man United, and who's the other big name they've got on their books? Somebody else. Anyway,
about kits.
Apparently we're the sort of the 5th big tier name, so that means we're going to get quite a lot of leisure wear and whatnot to go with it. So yeah, I mean, it's good. As a kit connoisseur myself, it'd be nice to see some nice kits. I think Puma have made some decent kits, to be fair. They have also made a few shit ones. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that one. But the bruised banana is coming back.
Talking of kits, so we should mention our giveaway. The wonderful John has gone and made a video with the first video we've ever made, actually cutting bits up, sticking them back together. It's on the front page, which we've never clicked, pinned a YouTube video to our front page. You can go on any part of ABW on YouTube and you'll find it. The ABW 1 million views giveaway. Now, the wonderful Gav, the cheeky monkey, Strutter himself, has given us a framed, signed Sandy Cazorla shirt from the what season is it? I did write it down. I've forgotten it now.
It was the one with the tube style hoops on the sleeve. 2014-15, is it?
I think 14 to 16. I think it may well have been. So he's given us that, and if you go and have a look at the YouTube video that is there, you'll be able to see that it's actually the framed shirt that he's going to give us, and it's got a couple of photos of Santi doing things, jumping in the air and doing wonderful Santiness. And all you have to do is, if it's on Facebook or YouTube, Facebook or Twitter, go to our pinned tweet on Twitter, retweet it and like it. Then your name will go. All we have to do is highlight the click. We click it, and then we can see who's done it. All of your names will go in a draw, and then same on Facebook. I mean, either or both. On Facebook, you go and like and share it, and again we can highlight it and it will list everybody that's done it. We'll write all the names down and we'll randomly pick one out. If you're outside of the UK, then Gav doesn't think it's best to send it framed because the frame could get smashed. Jace seems to think it's okay, but there again, that's the wonderful Jason, because he'll probably hand deliver it himself like the milk tray man. And second prize is going to be where is it? A Tony Adams signed autobiography, his latest one. His the people who produced the book, Simon and Schuster, I think it's called, they gave us 3 or 4 last time, and we kept one back for a big prize. So that's been sitting on my shelf out of the sunlight, and that's a signed one to give that away. And third prize, this is the one everybody wants, like I say in the video, the 94 to 96 Arsenal blue away stripy socks that Stefan Schwartz used to wear. They're mine. They've never been washed or worn. They're in my my ottoman in my sitting room, and so we're going to give that away as well. So what we might have to do is pick more than one person to win each prize, because if someone doesn't come forward, then we'll have first refusal, second refusal, third refusal for everything. And I think that's probably the best way to do it, because last time we did this kind of thing, we had people win stuff and then not contact us, and then rather than doing the entire thing again, we said, well, next time we're going to do this, we're going to pick first, second and third for each prize. So first refusals, we're going to do it's going to run. We've had 61 people. Actually, I'm just going to do a quick refresh on our Twitter page. 63 people have retweeted it, so that's you. 63 are going to go into the draw on Twitter. And on our Facebook page, I've refreshed that one as well. I think that one's about 30 odd. Here we go. The internet is so slow. This one is 24. Hey. Mike Feinberg's done it, so there's one person who's definitely not going to win. So that's 24 plus 57. There's only 57. Your chances of winning are 57 to 1. Actually, some of those have probably done both. It's probably 50 to 1.
That's a hell of a prize you could win as well. I mean, that's a properly good prize.
Well, Gav's got it on his site for £170, and Gav is giving that to us for nothing.
I have one in my collection, which I have offered to sell for similar money. So, yeah. It is framed? Not framed, no. I've got a couple that I'm still trying to shift. If anyone's interested, by the way,
what have you got? Let them know.
I've got a Podolski Puma Evo Tech, one of those, which was actually a match-worn one against Leicester from however many seasons ago that was. I've got a Rosicki, one of the same Santi one that you mentioned. And I don't know what the other one is. Bloody hell.
What are you going to do with the money? You're going to spend it on hair dye and tight pants that don't fit?
No, I'm in the process of moving into a new house with my partner. So I'm trying to shift some of those beloved things that I do love deeply to the very core of my existence. But sometimes life has to take over and mortgages need to be paid. So we're buying some new furniture for each other and for the house. So yeah, need to raise some cash, and I'd also like to upgrade my PC one day so I can.
What do you mean? Windows 3.1 isn't good enough for the likes of you?
Still on multimedia, or whatever it's called, MS-DOS. Yeah, so I'd like to do that, but yeah. So I did put them on. I've had them on Gav's site for a little while, but basically, if anybody's interested in a couple of shirts and you want to know what I've got, give me a message and I'll let you know what I've got. But that's a brilliant prize, really brilliant, and what an achievement for us as well. For 1 million views and that.
Well, on SoundCloud, we're about 1.3 million views. On Archive, which is what we used before SoundCloud, we're on about 500,000 views. So all in all, it's about 2.7 million. But it took ages to get it on YouTube because people didn't really use it. But we are thinking of maybe doing future podcasts the way that the Gooners pod, which is the Gooners in USA as it used to be, they do the show. They record it on Google Hangouts, but not live, and so you can't interact. And then once they've done it all, then they go and they schedule a date to launch it, to release it. And I don't say drop because you don't drop stuff. That's ridiculous. Anything you drop is omelettes. So we might start doing that because, quite frankly, I've had enough of Skype. It's absolute bullshit. But we should say that thanks to Gav, because he sponsored the show for the second half of last season. If you want to go to his shop, it's shewarshop.com. And if you want to go and see Chris's shirt and loads of other ones he's got, it's the Arsenal Shirts. Make sure you put an S at the end of that. .com, and it's also at SheWar on Twitter. So you go and see Gav. And remember, if you mention ABW, you will get a 0% family discount. And so go and have a look at that and say thanks to Gav. Gav, if you don't know, started this podcast when there was 6 of us, and he stopped coming on because he got too chops used to smash all the furniture up. And he's been doing other things. So we have him back on every now and then when he behaves himself. So long time member of the pod.
Seems a good time.
Regular guest.
Seems a good time as well to just give 2 quick thank yous to 2 people as well, Colin Lawrence and Les Roos, who I've been speaking to fairly recently, who've just become the proud owners of 2 more Pirates ABW sponsored shirts.
Was that the one that you tweeted that that we saw on the pod account? Yeah, I'd retweeted that. I wondered you didn't put in the picture who it was.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I didn't know if Les wanted me to say who it was. He's not on Twitter, so
there you go. He's dead to me.
But he wore that shirt to the Chelsea game at the Emirates on Saturday, which I thought was really cool. But yeah, basically we do, if anyone still wants someone to see the pod, and my Sunday League team, Barbican Pirates, have been together since day one. I think it really is. I've been on the shirts and little sponsorships and that. So basically I do custom made, they're Nike football shirts, they're decent quality, and we print the Bergkamp Wonderland podcast logo on the sleeves and on the shirts. Basically, they're fully customizable, so if you want your name and number or whatever, you can do it. I'm doing one at the moment for Pablo Navarro, who's one of my friends on Instagram. He's having one done. I'm just waiting for the second shirt. And I've also got one. Who's the other chap I'm doing one for? His surname's Albertini. It would be really unfair if I didn't mention his name, so I'll look it up quickly. But yeah, he's having one done as well. Chris Kelly. He's got one on the way as well. Did you
send one to Scandinavia as well?
Yeah, we got a couple in Hell in Norway.
Ooh.
A couple of pirate shirts in Hell. So,
good, that's where they belong.
That's cool. And as we said earlier, Devon's got a long sleeve black number on the way to him. So Les has been particularly patient because, and this is where I'll tie it back in, he bought a home shirt for Christmas, only to bloody Reading, wasn't even outside the country. The fucker went missing. So we paid for tracking on this one. It arrived yesterday, which is great. Oh, sorry, Saturday, which is great. So I was just going to say, whoever wins that Santi shirt, particularly if you're overseas, I know it might cost you a few quid, but I would just pay for us to have it sent, tracked or something, or FedExed or whatever the kids say these days. It might cost you 20, 30, it might even cost you 40 quid, but you're getting a shirt that's worth easily 300 or 400 quid for 40 quid. So just to make sure it gets there safe.
Yeah, I think we would do that.
Yeah, and if you're in the UK, I'd pay for it to be posted carefully as well.
Or if you live anywhere near me, I'll hand deliver it.
Yeah, or Jason can put it on the back of his moped, and actually that's more GA would be more of the moped.
He is the moped king of West London.
He is.
Or East London, or one of the two. I don't know which one it is.
Unspecified location in London.
Yeah, usually somewhere hot. Right, I think we should. Just typical. We've now been going for just nearly 2 hours. We should do. Yeah, gentlemen's nod as usual. Mine is going to go to the wonderful people that donated. I think we got £45 in donations during the last live show, and that show was our second highest viewed show of the season. We're coming up to 8,000 views on all formats, and so Yvonne Akofo, Daryl Kane 4 times, tell he's been on the beer, Unique 79, Michael Harniman twice, the McManus, Nick Hill Naidu, Ariane Hidari, Vibor Singh, Daniil Chernikov, Daniel Mage, Mr. Bob Lex, Chris Lodado, the Purple Lion, and Blair Slater slipped in like a dirty pirate at the very end with, I think he sent us $5 or £5 or some odd number just to annoy me. Stop doing it as something .99. Always try and make it a nice even number of 0.00. Yes, so thank you very much to all that lot. Chris, you anybody you want to say hello to?
Yes, I do. I promised him I would do this, so I'm going to. This year, I've taken on a brave new world. I've got back into FIFA. Dangerous.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm me and Mr. Jeff or Jeff.
That is exactly how you pronounce it, by the way.
With A on the end. Yeah. Generic Canadian rib there. But yes, me and Jeff talk regularly about all the special cards we're getting. We're particularly fond of the future stars at the moment. We're getting Jeff's got Genduzi, the Git. But I got in touch.
500,000, wasn't it?
Yes, whereas I've got 1.5 million coins burning a hole. But yes, there's a chap called Ahmed Saeed, who Danny, you might have chatted to. I'm sure you have. He's a fan of the pod. His not icon. What do you call it? What do you call the little pictures? Avatar, that's it. It's like a bearded, it almost looks like the old hipster logo. It's the beard with glasses. And he is...
Oh, is that the one in Russia?
At Systemo19.
Oh, Systemo. Of course I know him. I follow him on Instagram and on Twitter. And where
on Instagram?
Yeah, I think it's usually pictures of him with hot ladies in Russia.
Well.
He's a London boy.
He is, yeah. So we've been chatting on WhatsApp today regularly, and he's basically helping me build a meta FIFA squad, and he's helping me get better at FUT Champs.
But you're shit at it.
I'm terrible, but I did get silver on FUT Champs last week, which means I get a red player pick. I'm so excited. But I am terrible at FIFA. But if you want to...
£20.
If you ever want to add me and you want to play a game, AFC Freddy 8 is my PlayStation AFC FREDDIE 8. Or is it just C Freddy 8? I don't know. What is it, Danny? I don't fucking know.
I don't know. I don't have a PlayStation.
No,
I've got PS3s, but
I don't know what my bloody thing is. I'm looking at it.
Around 88p on Amazon. No.
Sorry, it's C Freddy 8, not AFC. So it's CFREDDIE 8. If you want to add me on PS Network or whatever, you can. But don't ask me to message because it takes forever. But Ahmed's been really, really good, really helpful, and he's been giving me tips and telling me how I can actually be good. So thanks, Ahmed. Yeah, shall we shoot more? Shall we defend more?
There is a poor bloke on Xbox Live who keeps sending me messages. People, do not send me any messages on Xbox Live. I cannot reply to them. I can't listen to them. I can't reply to them. I can't do anything. When I try to, it brings me up a website. I have to go to that website on my PC or the Xbox. I've done both, and then I have to do some other bits on there. I've clicked it. I've done this 6 fucking times, and it still keeps telling me it doesn't work. I can't reply to your messages. And one poor bloke, he keeps sending me messages saying, "Why aren't you replying to me?" Well, I mean, not in a mean way, but yeah. So if you're listening, please stop just tweet me for fuck's sake. I'll reply to anybody who tweets me unless they're telling me that I have to reply to them. Then I tell them to fuck off because
or if it's me.
Yes, well, I've got you blocked anyway, so I don't see anything you're doing. Should we give a message, a shout out, a gentleman's nod to Lana? Is she better? I hear she's not been well.
No, I think she's on the mend. She's been in hospital, but I think she's on the mend. She's been cunting off Spurs players in the group. That's all good. So yeah, she's well. And they got a very big win in the Rhone derby at the weekend. Lyon beat St Etienne 2-1 with the last minute goal from Dembele, so she was very happy.
Higuain, but that is Gav, because Gav can't speak English, and so rather than saying Higuain, he used to go Higuain. Who is this Higuain?
Who's this fucking Higuain bloke? Fucking shit, he's fat. Yeah, but no, I think she's on the mend, and we did kind of tease it earlier on, but we should congratulate Mr. Collings once again. I think I'll describe him simply as this: a genuine, bona fide, proper journalist, not one pretending to be one. Yep. So well done, Simon.
Now very Evening Standard.
Very richly deserved. Yeah, back page.
That for the Magnificent Haters TV, who have got a really, really good Twitter account and a really good YouTube channel, when they put loads of really good stuff on there. And now he's gone up and he's moved on a little bit, and he's broadened his horizons a little bit, I think it would be, and moved up in the pecking order of newspaper. He's not quite writing for the Guardian yet, which would be for me the pinnacle of stuff. Because actually, Jimbo ain't there anymore. Does Jimbo still write for them? I know he does.
No, I think it's pod. I think it's all his standalone pods now, isn't it? He does even his movie ones, yeah. So,
yes,
but
Simon, that's an impressive thing to. And I remember when he was sat with a couple of students, uni mates, doing their own podcast, which I think I was the only person who listened to. It's really good quality, and then I poached him.
Yes, and now he basically spends his Tuesday nights counting all the money. That's what he does.
It comes in all barrows.
He is like in the Wolf of Wall Street. He walks in and he's like, I'm not leaving. I'm not fucking leaving. He's like, I'm staying. I'm counting all your money. That's what he does.
Mesut Ozil of the media paper world.
I don't think he's on that much. Fifey's on probably that much a week. I don't know.
A week easily.
Day.
Right. What else have we got to? Got to say thank you very much to Devon for joining us. If you want to go and follow Devon on Twitter, it's at DEVON, the number 4, and then real. And then if you want to go and follow, if you're an MLS fan or you're an Atlanta United fan, it's had a shiver. Then it's ATLUTDFANTV, and definitely go and give Devon a follow. But the Atlanta United stuff, now they robbed the mighty Portland Tucana Timbers. They robbed us in that final by being the better team, playing better football, and just generally being brilliant. So ruined my weekend, that did.
And meanwhile, Chicago Fire is still shit.
Yes.
Although they have high hopes for the season, they've brought in a couple of good draft players in the winter break, and I saw a lovely picture of Schweinsteiger in pre-season training today. So they'll be back.
Still there? Fatty Schweinsteiger.
Yeah, he's still there. He's loving life in America, bless him.
And to see Ashley Cole has left and come play for the mighty Derby. What is he, 40?
It's roughly that. Although to be fair, I think. I don't think Galaxy wanted him anymore. Zlatan's back in training. I saw that today as well. So
I'm surprised Zlatan didn't come over to the Premier League and just to keep himself, or Italy actually. He could walk around in Italy and score loads of goals over there.
I think he had an offer from Milan because Leonardo and Milan, they're all good buddies. But I think he basically said he wanted to be loyal to LA. And also you think about the injury that he came back from at United. Was it ACL rupture he had? All the downtime.
Over Cup final, didn't they? Or Europa League.
Yeah, given the fact that MLS, doesn't really have a break. Once the win, there isn't a break. If you go and play in Europe, you don't get a proper break.
And his age.
Yeah,
imagine a fully fit, fully rested, fully on form Zlatan. He will break all known records in that league.
My beating heart. What a wonderful footballer.
What a beautiful bastard.
Oh, makes me erect.
Yes,
what a way to end the podcast.
Makes me jealous. Yes. Well, I think thank you to Devon and the wonderful Mr. Goonaholic. Good job. He's probably thinking, I'm glad I left at 9 o'clock because that was nearly an hour and a quarter ago. Yeah. He'd be scratching at the walls to get out. He'd have probably run dry an hour ago. So I think you should close this shit up.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're still listening, God bless you. I'm sure the minute that you said, have you got time afterwards, Chris? I bet everyone went, fucking, I'm turning that shit off because they knew it wouldn't be.
I think some like it. I mean, I could sit here till midnight talking to you about all kinds of football and stuff like that.
And I could do the same.
Maybe we should do a 5-hour pod just talking shit.
Well, it's probably more of an after dark situation there, isn't it, or Arsenal unscripted type of situation? But
after dark isn't what it used to be because we don't get rude.
We've got through all the depravity now. I mean, John could do it on his own.
No point, would there?
I'm planning to try and do some more of the live shows, but it's just so hard at the moment to find time, and it's tough.
Don't scrape themselves.
They don't. They really don't. So, but yeah, Man United on Friday. God bless Arsenal, I suppose. So yeah, we'll close off the show there. If you have listened all the way,
who's on the show? I think Jason's probably listening. Going, you bastard! You tell them. I don't know where that is.
From India.
He says the United game is John, Ellis, and Jason, and the Cardiff game is me, John, and me. Hold on, no, he's put Danny, John, and me, so that'd be me, John, and Jason.
So basically, tune in on Friday. It's a shame that we have to have Ellis. I mean, we can't get all the good people on, but he'll do, I suppose. So should be good. Should be a good listen, and the radio show boys are doing a fine job. So keep it up, boys. Keep doing what you do.
Right. Donations. We are about to go and spend some big money on actual decent proper microphones that sit on the desk like the old BBC ones. They're 50 quid each, but I'm going to email the company and see if they want to chuck us some for free. When they tell us to fuck off, I'll have to go and buy them from Amazon. But yes, all your donations are going to be used for that.
And to those of you who quite liked the brief interlude about FIFA talk, by the way, I'm working on a guest.
Don't tease them.
Well, I'm just going to say that much, but let's just say one of the big YouTubers out there. I've dropped him a little email, and he is an Arsenal fan. I should stress it's not just a random. So hopefully we might be able to do a little special with him if he gets back to me as well. So stay tuned for that. But I think we'll wind it up there, Danny, shall we?
Lovely. Close the show, and we shall go.
Good. So that was a fucking long Bergkamp Wonderland podcast, as usual. It's me. What do you expect? Until the next time, and in between times, and of course until Friday. Good luck, the Arsenal. Get well soon, Hector. We're all thinking of you. And as always, yes, keep it Arsenal. Speak to you very soon. Nanu.
Cheeky monkeys.
Bitches.